Chapter 38. Sitting in the first-class cabin of the plane, Soo-won lowered her eyes and looked at the financial magazine that was placed flat on her knees. The cover of the magazine was the hottest upstart in the business world in the country, and also Haoyue Group's new CEO, Xiao Jing-mo. Xiao Jing-mo was Seong City Xiao family's eldest grandson. At a young age, he already relied on his accurate vision and swift and decisive methods to manage the huge Haoyue Group in an orderly manner, making it prosper with each passing day. He was Seong City's top diamond bachelor, and was also the dream lover of many Seong City's young ladies. This kind of rich and powerful, young and promising man, moreover, he was also handsome. Which woman wouldn't like him? Of course, no one in this world would have a smooth life. In other people's eyes, Xiao Jing-mo was a winner in life, but in Xiao Jing-mo's eyes, he was just a loser in love. Before he was found by Xiao family, Xiao Jing-mo was just an ordinary teenager. He and his mother depended on each other for survival. The two people's days weren't considered poor, but they weren't rich either. When Xiao Jing-mo was in high school, he fell in love with a girl. The girl was his desk mate. Her grades were very good, and she was also very beautiful. The most important thing was that her personality was very good. She was especially kind and enthusiastic. At that time, Xiao Jing-mo was also at the age where he first awakened to love. He and the girl had good impressions of each other. The two people quickly confirmed their relationship of love and made an agreement to enter the same university and major after graduating from high school. At that time, the future they were looking forward to was beautiful and happy, but after the college entrance examination, everything changed. The girl who was born into a wealthy family chose to go abroad to study. Before leaving, she didn't even inform him and only left Xiao Jing-mo a cold and indifferent breakup letter. That year was the most painful and most dispirited year in Xiao Jing-mo's life. Not long after the girl went abroad, Xiao Jing-mo's mother also passed away because of an acute illness. He had no relatives or friends in the huge Seong city. Many nights, Xiao Jing-mo relied on reminiscing the sweetness and beauty of the past to pass. Until one day, when Xiao family's people found him, only then did Xiao Jing-mo know that he was actually the son of Xiao family's eldest young master who was stranded outside. Speaking of Xiao Jing-mo's life experience, it was also a melodramatic story of a rich and powerful Cinderella. At that time, young Master Xiao fell in love with a beautiful poor girl. Their relationship was strongly opposed by Old Man Xiao, who was the head of the Xiao family at that time. Later, young Master Xiao simply made an appointment with the girl to elope together. However, on the day of the appointment, young Master Xiao had a serious traffic accident on the way to the appointed place. He was directly sent abroad by Old Man Xiao for treatment. Although the medical equipment there was more perfect, young Master Xiao still passed away a month later. And that commoner girl couldn't wait for anyone that day, so she could only dejectedly step on the train to return to her hometown. After returning to her hometown, she only knew that she was pregnant. In the end, she gave birth to Xiao Jing-mo. She laboriously raised her son alone. Until many years later, when she once again brought her son to Seong City, she unexpectedly found out that young Master Xiao didn't abandon her, but had an accident and passed away. Since then, Xiao Jing-mo's mother's body began to rapidly weaken, and finally, she also passed away. Xiao Jing-mo only discovered his mother's will after her death, and at this time, Xiao family's people also came to find him. According to his mother's last wish, Xiao Jing-mo returned to Xiao family. Facing this grandson who, no matter if it was his face or personality, was very similar to his own son, Old Man Xiao loved the house and its crow, and wished that he could deliver the entire Xiao family to Xiao Jing-mo. At that time, although Xiao Jing-mo had a grudge in his heart, he didn't vent his anger on his grandfather. On the contrary, he was very envious of his mother and father's feelings. Thinking of his first love who left him without saying goodbye, Xiao Jingmo's heart had always been aching dully. Some wounds seemed to have disappeared and calmed down, but in fact, it had already hurt to the bone marrow. In Xiang City, there were countless women scrambling to curry favor in front of Xiao Jingmo, but his heart had never been moved. Until one day, he saw a young girl working in a bar. Her body had the shadow of her. That girl named Luo Chu was still a university student. Because her family was poor, she had to work several jobs every day. Although her life was very hard, she had always been very optimistic. At that time, Luo Chu never thought that one day she would meet a noble young master like Xiao Jingmo. When she came back to her senses, Xiao Jingmo had already walked into her heart step by step. Luo Chu fell in love with Xiao Jingmo. Her love was very pure, but at that time, she didn't know that the reason why Xiao Jingmo took special care of her was because her face looked very similar to Xiao Jingmo's first love, Su Wan. That's right, Su Wan was the girl that Xiao Jingmo deeply loved in the past. Her fingers lightly stroked the cover of the magazine a few times. The corner of Su Wan's lips slowly rose into a mocking smile. What was a real cannon fodder? The original Su Wan, in Xiao Jingmo and Luo Chu's feelings, was 100% cannon fodder. 8 years ago, when Su Wan took the college entrance examination, she and her lover agreed to enter the same university. But before her college entrance examination, her father had a heart attack and was hospitalized. In the hospital, her mother told her that her father was cheated by someone. Not only was the company facing bankruptcy, but he also owed a huge debt outside. It was because her father couldn't stand the stimulation that he got sick. And now, her father, who was still in the intensive care unit, was facing the choice of life and death, but the family couldn't even take out the most basic surgery fees. At that time, Su Wan was foolish and completely didn't know what to do. At this time, her mother told her that someone was willing to pay to send her father abroad for surgery. And that person was also willing to help their family repay the debt. But that person had a condition, which was for Su Wan and Xiao Jingmo to break up, and then the whole family go abroad together. For at least 5 years, they were not allowed to step half a step into Huaxia. At that time, Su Wan was only a young girl who was inexperienced in the world. She couldn't understand the twists and turns inside. She only knew that she must save her father. So, she left behind a breakup letter and quietly went abroad with her parents. This time, she went away for 8 years. 8 years later, Su Wan, who had already become the general manager of a certain brand in Huaxia, once again returned to Xiang City. In Xiang City, she once again met Xiao Jingmo, who had already become the chairman of Haoyue Group. In fact, in these 8 years, Su Wan had never forgotten Xiao Jingmo. She felt that she had let him down. On one hand, she wanted him to forget her and start a new life. On the other hand, she also hoped that he would still remember her and still love her. This kind of contradictory mood made Su Wan not know what kind of attitude she should use to face Xiao Jingmo. The reunion after 8 years caused great waves in the hearts of the two of them. Right now, Xiao Jingmo had already been in love with Luo Chu for more than a year. He had always regarded Luo Chu as Su Wan's substitute. When the real Su Wan returned to the country, Xiao Jingmo was somewhat uncertain. Was it Su Wan, this person, or that unfruitful first love that he couldn't forget? And at the same time, Su Wan also knew of Luo Chu's existence, and she also met someone she didn't expect, Fang Zi asked. She was Xiang City's Fang family's second young miss and claimed to be Xiao Jingmo's fiancée. Fang Zi asked and told Su Wan that the bankruptcy of Su family's company was actually single-handedly planned by Xiao Laoyizi. He would never allow his grandson to marry a woman like Su Wan or Luo Chu to become Xiao family's granddaughter-in-law. Su Wan, who knew the truth, drank in the bar for an entire night and finally couldn't help but call Xiao Jing Imo. She told him everything that happened these past few years. The hidden story of that year made Xiao Jing Imo endlessly shocked. He felt that he owed Su Wan too much, so Xiao Jing Imo decided to break up with Luo Chu Chu and be together with Su Wan. After the two people got together again, they encountered Xiao Lei Yizi's opposition. As a result, Xiao Jing Imo moved out of Xiao family and lived with Su Wan in an apartment not far from the company. The two people seemed to have returned to the period of being passionately in love. Every day was very happy, but Su Wan keenly felt that there were many times when Xiao Jing Imo would stare at her absent-mindedly, as if he was looking at another person through her. At that time, Su Wan forced herself not to think too much. Until one day, Su Wan sprained her ankle. Xiao Jing Imo originally supported her to change the medicine, but as a result, he met Luo Chu Chu who had just gotten into a car accident. At that time, Xiao Jing Imo seemed to have gone crazy and threw Su Wan away. His entire heart and eyes only had Luo Chu Chu in his eyes. At that moment, Su Wan knew that her first love had already ended 8 years ago. They could no longer go back. In the end, who was whose substitute? Su Wan dejectedly withdrew from Xiao Jing Mo's emotional world. She planned to resign from her position in the country and return abroad to take care of her parents. On the day of her departure, Xiao Jing Imo drove his car to send her off. Halfway through, Xiao Jing Mo's car brakes suddenly malfunctioned. At the juncture of life and death, Su Wan used her thin and weak body to protect Xiao Jing Imo and also ended her short life as a cannon fodder. After Su Wan's death, Xiao Jing Imo found out that the person who tampered with his car was actually Fong family's eldest young master, Fong Zimu. And the reason why Fong Zimu wanted to kill Xiao Jing Imo was because he had always been infatuated with Luo Chu Chu. Alright, the ending of the story was that Fong family was played to bankruptcy by Xiao Jing Imo. Fong clan's brother and sister had nothing, while Xiao Jing Imo and Luo Chu Chu finally got married. Moreover, the two people immediately went to Su Wan's grave to show their affection after getting married. Xiao Wan Jijie, we are very happy. You rest in peace. Su Wan, rest in peace your brother-in-law. If you really love a person so much that you can die for him, then can you bear that after you die, he immediately married someone else to show their affection? Su Wan didn't know what other people thought, but in short, if it was her, she absolutely couldn't bear it. The person she loved must always love her. Even if she died, he must only love her for a lifetime. Chapter 39. In Xiang City in July, it was raining continuously. When Luo Chu Chu came out of the mall with the cake, it had been raining for a long time. Many deep and shallow puddles had gathered on the ground. Oh no! She rubbed her face in annoyance and nervously looked at the cake box in her hand. Today was Xiao Jing Mo's birthday. She personally made this cake in the DIY shop on the 4th floor of the mall. Seeing that it was almost time for Xiao Jing Mo to get off work, Luo Chu Chu stood at the entrance of the mall hesitantly. She blamed herself for being too muddle-headed. She clearly knew that it would rain these few days, but she still forgot to bring an umbrella when she went out. She was thinking of going back to the mall to buy an umbrella, but as soon as she turned around, Luo Chu Chu froze in place. A young and beautiful woman walked towards her. She was wearing a red dress and a short white coat. Her simple and bright attire matched with her chestnut curly hair, making her look particularly sexy and charming. Of course, this wasn't the reason why Luo Chu Chu was in a daze. What she really cared about was this woman's appearance. She had a pair of beautiful peach blossom eyes. Her gaze was languid. Luo Chu Chu was very familiar with this pair of eyes because she herself also had such a pair of eyes. But compared to the woman in front of her, Luo Chu Chu felt that she was not good enough. Perhaps it was because Luo Chu-Chu's gaze was too focused and enthusiastic. The oncoming woman slowly stopped in front of Luo Chu-Chu. "Hello." She softly opened her mouth and her voice was surprisingly pleasant to hear. Hello." Luo Chu-Chu was somewhat at a loss. Her face flashed with embarrassment. Actually I am." For a moment, she was suddenly at a loss for words and didn't know what to explain. "I'm also very surprised." The woman seemed to see through Luo Chu-Chu's embarrassment. She faintly smiled at Luo Chu-Chu and took the initiative to speak again. "Just now, when I first saw you, I almost thought that I traveled through time and saw my past self. They were very similar. Apart from that pair of eyes, the other facial features were also very similar. Since we met, it's a kind of fate. My name is Su Wan." Su Wan smiled and extended her hand towards Luo Chu-Chu. Hearing Su Wan's name, Luo Chu-Chu's body stiffened for a moment. After a while, she apologetically shook hands with Su Wan. "Hello, my name is Luo Chu-Chu." Su Wan knew that today was Xiao Jingmo's birthday, so she specially waited here for Luo Chu-Chu to appear. But Luo Chu-Chu thought this was just an accidental encounter. Su Wan thought this name was actually not unfamiliar to her. Not long ago, a young Miss Fong once looked for Luo Chu-Chu and told her that Xiao Jingmo didn't really love her. Xiao Jingmo only treated her as a substitute for another person. And that person was called Su Wan, Xiao Jingmo's first love. At that time, Luo Chu-Chu was suspicious and uneasy, but after getting along with Xiao Jingmo for more than a year, she was more willing to believe that there were true feelings between them. They must love each other. A person's eyes can't lie. Before today, Luo Chu-Chu always firmly believed in this point. But now, the smile on Luo Chu-Chu's mouth was somewhat forced. Xiao Jingmo liked her eyes very much. Every time he looked at her, he was especially focused and affectionate. However, were they really looking at her? Luo Chu-Chu suddenly felt somewhat uncertain. Just when Luo Chu-Chu was secretly suspicious, Su Wan seemed to have suddenly seen the cake in her hand and said with a pleasantly surprised face, "Is it your birthday today?" "I have a friend's birthday today, what a coincidence." "Yes, is it?" Luo Chu-Chu's hand that was holding the cake box unconsciously tightened. She clearly told herself in her heart to quickly leave and not think too much, but her body couldn't move at all. "Is it your boyfriend?" When the words came out, Luo Chu-Chu was first startled, but in the next second, she still asked again, "It's the person who's having his birthday today." She couldn't deceive herself. Actually, she cared very much. And it can be considered so. Su Wan's expression was somewhat hesitant. "We haven't seen each other for many years. Maybe he already no longer loves me." "Oh, so it's like that." Luo Chu-Chu knew that her current expression must be extremely ugly. I still have things to do, I'll leave first." Not waiting for Su Wan to answer, Luo Chu-Chu already turned around and quickly ran out of the mall, even forgetting to buy an umbrella. A woman in love. Su Wan shook her head. She walked to the door and saw Luo Chu-Chu cutting a sorry figure rushing into the heavy rain. However, she hadn't run a few steps when she was blocked by a black Maserati. Su Wan stood far away and couldn't see the appearance of the person in the car through the curtain of rain. But she was certain that the person driving was definitely not Xiao Jingmo. "Get in the car." The Maserati's window slowly rolled down, revealing a young man's face. The man looked to be 27 or 28 years old. His soft short hair was dyed chestnut and stuck to his bright and clean forehead. The man's complexion was not white, but it was very healthy and sexy. His handsome facial features carried a bit of gloominess. Especially that pair of pitch-black eyes. Occasionally, a cold glint flashed past, making people involuntarily feel frightened and alarmed. Fortunately, although his face was cold, his gaze was still peaceful. Ah! Fong Zimu. Luo Chu saw the man's face and was first stunned. Then she hesitated for a moment, but she still quickly opened the car door and got into the car. Fong Zimu glanced at Luo Chu from the rearview mirror and was about to drive away. Suddenly, his line of sight stopped somewhere. That heart that was already numb to the point of not feeling, suddenly fiercely beat. It's her. A cold glint flashed in his eyes. Fong Zimu suddenly opened the car door and rushed towards the entrance of the mall. But when he ran there, the figure that made his heart beat had already disappeared. The vast curtain of rain blurred Fong Zimu's line of sight. The ice-cold rain followed his soft short hair and dripped on his face. Is that you? Fong Zimu unconsciously tightened his fists, leaving a red scar on his palms. After standing in the rain for a moment, he silently turned around and left. In the cyan misty rain, that tall and slender figure looked very lonely. Until that black Maserati sped away in the curtain of rain, Su Wan slowly appeared from a corner with an umbrella. When he sensed her, she actually saw him too. Su Wan already guessed that the owner of that car should be young Master Fong Zimu, but after seeing that man get out of the car, Su Wan almost reflexively turned around and quickly hid in the corner. She didn't know what was wrong with her, but that face that was exactly the same as Su Rui's, for a moment, really scared Su Wan. Maybe it was just that they looked alike. Well, Su Wan must admit that Fong Zimu not only looked like a mature version of Su Rui, his gaze, the faint aura that his body emitted, and the feeling he gave her, were all exactly the same as Su Rui. Moreover, if Su Wan didn't feel wrong, the other party clearly recognized her just now. It couldn't be helped, Su Rui's perception was simply terrifying. Why was he here? And he even became Fong Zimu. Chapter 40. When Fong Zimu returned to Fong family, Fong Ziwen had just finished her makeup. Go, you're back. Fong Ziwen looked at the mirror and checked her makeup. She quickly raised her head and looked at Fong Zimu. Hearing Fong Ziwen's words, Fong Zimu didn't answer. Instead, he walked to the sofa in the villa's hall and lightly leaned on the sofa. Go. Fong Ziwen, who was finally satisfied with her dress today, put away the makeup mirror and looked at Fong Zimu not far away. She couldn't help but reveal a trace of surprise. How come you're all wet? At this time, Fong Zimu was particularly quiet and leaning on the left side of the sofa. The custom-made suit that was worth hundreds of thousands of yuan was wet. He closed his eyes and let the water drip from the ends of his hair onto his face. At this time, Fong Zimu was too quiet. So quiet that Fong Ziwen was at a loss. In her memory, her brother had always been strong and overbearing, even cold and unreasonable. She didn't expect that such a strong brother would actually have such a quiet side. Go, how come you? Fong Ziwen couldn't help but feel a bit soft-hearted. She wanted to step forward and ask, but her voice was suddenly cut off by Fong Zimu's indifferent voice. Shut up. Fong Zimu suddenly opened his eyes. That pair of slender pitch-black eyes flashed with a trace of blood. Fong Ziwen fearfully retreated 2 steps. Her face became deathly pale in an instant. Gee, I was wrong. Her voice carried an uncontrollable tremble. Fong Ziwen, who was familiar with her brother's temperament and nature, was very clear. At this time, Fong Zimu was on the verge of a violent rage. He was very scary at this time. Glancing at Fong Ziwen's shivering appearance that was wrapped up like a peacock, Fong Zimu's heart became even more irritable. How could this kind of trash get Xiao Jingmo's favor? If it wasn't because his current body was Fong Ziwen's brother, Su Rui really wanted to slap this incompetent woman to death. As soon as he thought of his mission goal when he entered this world, he thought of his current bitter identity as an affectionate supporting male. Su Rui's face became even more unsightly. He gloomily stared at Fong Zi when a few times before he once again spoke in a low voice. You want to go to Xiao Jingmo's birthday party? Yes. Hearing her elder brother mention Xiao Jingmo, Fong Zi Wen's face couldn't help but smile. Jing Imo personally invited me. I naturally have to dress up well. After all, I'm his fiancé. Maybe he will invite me for the first dance tonight. Speaking till here, Fong Ziwen couldn't help but straighten her body, as if she was particularly proud. In fact, Fong Ziwen's appearance wasn't bad, but this young lady had grown up crooked since childhood. She always mingled with a group of Gothic-style rich second generation, causing her own aesthetic to be a bit distorted. Su Rui somewhat disdainfully looked at Fong Ziwen's multicolored hair. She thought that she was a different kind of firework, but in fact, she was a unique feather duster. He raised his wrist and looked at the time. Su Rui simply stood up and pulled Fong Ziwen towards the door. Brother, what are you doing? Fong Zi asked with a bit of apprehension. She thought that her brother's anger hadn't subsided yet. Was he planning to vent his anger on her? Thinking of the tragic end of those people who had offended her brother, Fong Ziwen's legs trembled and her voice trembled. Brother, you're my younger sister. No, you're my blood brother. Ah. It was still raining outside. Su Rui stood at the entrance of the villa. He pushed Fong Ziwen into the heavy rain and looked at her indifferently as she was drenched by the rain. Looking at the makeup on her face being smeared by the rain, Su Rui's expression eased up a lot. Go find your Fei and let him help you cut your hair short and dye it back to black. Come back before 4:30 for me to check. Before his voice fell, Su Rui had already turned around indifferently. Bang! The door of the villa in front of Fong Ziwen ruthlessly closed. Fong Ziwen fiercely bit her lips, but her heart felt very powerless. It's really enough to have such a ferocious older brother. Older sister Wan, this is Xiao family's invitation card. The assistant, Chen Wei, placed an exquisitely crafted invitation card in front of Su Wan. Su Wan had just returned from the shopping mall. She casually took off her small jacket and only wore the one-shoulder red dress, revealing her fair and smooth shoulders. Her whole person looked particularly casual and lazy. Xiao family. Sitting on her boss's chair, Su Wan played with the invitation card and the corner of her mouth raised into a playful smile. Our EVFA has always had a cooperative relationship with Haoyue Group. However, this is the first time Xiao family has sent us an invitation to a private banquet, right? Yes, ah. Chen Wei, who was at the side, also had a face of deep thought. Maybe it's because this year is Chief Xiao's 25th birthday, so there are more people invited. Chen Wei really didn't know what Xiao family was thinking, but he felt that this was a great thing to pull the relationship between both parties closer. Moreover, with his boss's methods, settling Xiao family was simply a matter of minutes. Since they have invited us with sincerity, we can only reluctantly accept. As she spoke, Su Wan stood up and her slender fingers pressed the invitation card under her palm. She leaned her upper body and her chestnut-colored curly hair slid down from her fair shoulders. A pair of good-looking peach blossom eyes stared at Chen Wei on the other side of the desk with a smile. Go prepare a presentable suit. Tonight, be my male companion. Chen Wei secretly swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Boss, are you openly seducing me? I'm a person with a family, what should I do? I really need 120% of self-control. By older sister Wan sighed. This painful and happy bitter assistant's life. Seeing Chen Wei flee in defeat, the smile on Su Wan's face gradually disappeared. It was said that the business world was like a battlefield. Xiang City's business world was even more treacherous. There were many wealthy families with financial power in Xiang City. The ones with the deepest foundation were Xiao family and Fong family. And in these few years, Xiao Jingmo's strong rise made Fong family's position feel threatened. The two families should have been opponents with blades and swords, but Xiao Laoyizi had the intention to be on good terms with Fong family. Moreover, he fancied Fong Ziwen to be his granddaughter-in-law. Powerful marriage alliance. No, it was asking a tiger for its skin. Su Wan's gaze fell on that invitation card again, whether it was Su family's bankruptcy 8 years ago or this invitation card 8 years later. It was definitely Xiao Laoyizi's handiwork. This Laoyizi was really a chess expert. However, the feeling of meeting one's match was also not bad. Su Wan's whole body relaxed and sank into the comfortable leather chair. According to the original world's plot, she coincidentally met Xiao Jingmo on the 3rd day after returning to the country. But this time, Su Wan took the initiative to avoid a reunion with Xiao Jingmo. She originally planned to start with Luo Chu-Chu, but now it seems that meeting with Xiao Jingmo in advance was already impossible to change. Thinking of Luo Chu-Chu's birthday cake, Su Wan could imagine that she must be celebrating her birthday with Xiao Jingmo right now. And at the banquet tonight, Xiao Jingmo would also formally introduce Luo Chu-Chu to everyone in the business world for the first time. When a fake meets the real thing, and under the watchful eyes of everyone, what kind of scene would it be? Chapter 41. Xiao Jia's banquet was held in one of Xiao Jia's lakeside villas. The banquet started at 7 p.m. Su Wan, who had changed into a pure white evening dress, arrived at Xiao Jia early in the morning accompanied by Qin Wei. There weren't many guests coming and going at this time. Because it rained during the day, the air outside was particularly humid and the air was mixed with the smell of grass after the rain. As soon as Su Wan and Qin Wei entered the door, they attracted a lot of people's attention. EVFA's Huaxiao region's new chief Su, everyone still had a certain amount of curiosity towards Su Wan. Especially when they saw her dressed tonight, the eyes of many rich people brightened. Tonight, Su Wan's makeup was very simple. The white dress didn't have too many embellishments, but it was this naturalness that set off her young face with light makeup, making her look especially pure and seductive. Among the luxuries, there was a unique elegance. Su Wan knew that tonight, Xiao Jingmo would definitely prepare this kind of elegant and beautiful style for Luo Chu-Chu. She was really embarrassed. She just liked to wear the same clothes as others. Seeing other people looking at him with all kinds of envy, jealousy, and hatred, Qin Wei, as a man, was still in pain and happy. The female companion beside him was too eye-catching. He felt that his vanity had received the greatest satisfaction. Unfortunately, this female companion didn't belong to him. Qin Wei was still absent-minded, but Su Wan had already brought him in front of everyone. Chief Wang. Chief Liu. Su Wan smiled charmingly and very familiarly exchanged greetings with the guests in the banquet hall. No one would refuse a beauty's greeting. So in just a while, Su Wan had already become one with most of the people. Time passed minute by minute and the guests in the hall were getting more and more. Seeing that the banquet was about to start, a clamor suddenly came from the entrance of the villa. Qin Wei, who was next to Su Wan, curiously looked towards the entrance for the first time. As a result, he saw a pair of man and woman surrounded by the surrounding guests. Qin Wei, who had always liked to look at beautiful women, saw that tall and slender figure at first glance this time. The expensive custom-made suit set off the man's perfectly proportioned figure. Those perfectly straight legs, perfect waist, and broad shoulders simply made Qin Wei, a man who had started to put on weight before he reached middle age, extremely jealous and hateful. Of course, this was not considered a blow to Qin Wei. What struck Qin Wei the most was that this man with a perfect figure actually had a handsome face comparable to that of a celebrity. It was not the kind of handsomeness of a milky white boy, but a genuine handsomeness. His facial features were well defined, and he exuded an air of nobility. Chen Wei only reacted when he heard the surrounding guests discussing that person's name. That's the legendary young Master Fang. Fuck. Why didn't he think that young Master Fang was so cool before? It's Fang Zimu, Fang family's eldest young master. Afraid that Su Wan didn't recognize this lord, Chen Wei couldn't help but lean close to Su Wan's ear and whispered. In just that instant of contact, Chen Wei acutely felt that he was being stared at by a pair of gloomy and cold eyes. The feeling of being stared at by a venomous snake, even though it was only for a moment, caused his entire back to be soaked in cold sweat. Who was it? He actually had such a terrifying gaze. If looks could kill, Chen Wei absolutely didn't doubt that he would have been torn apart by 5 horses at that moment. Chen Wei's complexion paled as he looked around. But that moment of feeling was like his illusion, completely untraceable. In fact, the moment Su Rui came in, Su Wan saw him. During the day, she only took a quick glance. Now, she was truly sizing up Su Rui. He had shed his previous fiendish aura. Now, Su Rui had the perfect appearance of an elegant and noble young master. The air of nobility on his body was accumulated over the years, completely different from those merchants around him. It could be said that Su Rui gave Fang Zimu, this character, a brand new soul and temperament. Su Wan sighed in her heart. She recognized Su Rui, and Su Rui also recognized her. If she didn't guess wrong, Su Rui was probably a mission enforcer like her right now. She just didn't know what his mission in this world would be. Thinking of this, Su Wan couldn't help but look sideways at Su Rui's female companion. It was Fang Ziwen. Tonight, Fang Ziwen was wearing a bright and dazzling purple evening dress. It was luxurious and sexy. The mysterious and noble purple contrasted with her sparkling and translucent snow-white complexion. Fang Ziwen had a refreshing short haircut and her face was painted with exquisite makeup. She was like a completely different person compared to the young Miss Fang in other people's memories who always painted smoky makeup and dyed her hair into a myriad of colors. So, when she entered the door, it caused such a big commotion. Being stared at with astonishment and admiration by everyone, Fang Ziwen suddenly felt a little nervous. Her new style looked pretty good. Then, Xiao Jing Imo, would he like it? When she thought of Xiao Jing Imo, Fang Ziwen's heart was soft. She was so big, but she never knew what love was like. But Xiao Jingmo's appearance made her know what love was. Even if it was only her unrequited love, Fang Ziwen believed that one day, Xiao Jingmo would discover her good points and he would like her. Thinking of this, Fang Ziwen's spirit soared even more. Su Rui, who was at the side, only spoke a few polite words to the surrounding people indifferently. He was always indifferent, but in fact, he had always been paying attention to Su Wan's every move. Her smile was elegant and her posture was calm. She seemed to enjoy this kind of gathering very much. Looking at her being surrounded by a group of men and still talking and laughing, Su Rui's face couldn't help but turn gloomy. Su Rui's gaze was especially intense. Su Wan always felt as if there was a blade on her back, but she still maintained her elegance. She didn't know how many times she had participated in this kind of banquet. No matter what kind of situation it was, she could always handle it with ease. After exchanging greetings with those business partners for a long time, Su Wan finally got away from the group of people. Chen Wei, whose face had already stiffened from smiling, took the opportunity to go to the washroom and slipped away. Su Wan, on the other hand, found a place that wasn't bustling but also wasn't secluded and sat down. At this time, she was looking for Su Rui's figure in the crowd, but he had already disappeared. It seems that he didn't seem to want to meet her. Su Wan shook the red wine in her goblet. The scarlet liquid was suffused with starlight under the crystal lamp, In those past missions, Su Wan had seen all kinds of people. She had helped them, harmed them, and also used them. Every time she walked out of a mission, Su Wan would use the fastest speed to make herself forget them. Her heart couldn't hold anyone, and she also didn't want to be touched by anyone. However, Su Rui was an exception. His gaze was too penetrating, making Su Wan unable to hide in front of him. This feeling of being seen through made people feel very uncomfortable. Su Rui. A ruthless glint flashed in Su Wan's eyes. In this world, if you are my enemy, then I can only get rid of you quickly. I, Su Wan, will not be lenient towards anyone. You, Su Rui, will absolutely not be an exception. The luxurious crystal lamp on the roof suddenly extinguished at the same time. The shining laser lights shone down from the surrounding walls and finally gathered at the stairs of the second floor of the villa. The time for the banquet to start had arrived. The host of this banquet also finally made a grand appearance under everyone's expectations. Su Wan looked at the empty stairs. At this moment, almost everyone's gaze was gathered in one place. Chapter 42. Luo Chu Chu was very nervous. When Xiao Jing Mo, who was wearing a black tuxedo, held her hand and walked out of the room, Luo Chu Chu's palms were sweaty. Chu Chu, don't be nervous. I'm here. Xiao Jing Mo's voice was low and gentle, making Luo Chu Chu's nervous and apprehensive mood calm down in an instant. At this time, the hall downstairs was already full of guests. When the light hit Xiao Jing Mo's face, the soft light shone on his deep and handsome facial features. Just like a prince walking out of a castle, he gracefully held Luo Chu Chu's hand and slowly walked down the spiral staircase. Tonight, Luo Chu Chu wore a pure white evening dress. Her black hair was simply tied up. Her entire person looked especially elegant and clear. This was the first time she stood under the watchful eyes of the crowd. Although Xiao Jing Mo was at the side, Luo Chu Chu still seemed somewhat embarrassed and nervous. One of her hands unconsciously tightened the skirt of her dress. Her gaze was at a loss as to what to do. Someone in the crowd exclaimed in a low voice, and immediately after, some people began to whisper. Xiao Jing Mo unhappily frowned and followed those people's line of sight. His gaze suddenly froze. In the corner of the banquet hall, Su Wan sat on a single sofa. Her chestnut-colored curly hair was lazily tied up behind her head. There were still a few strands of hair naughtily hanging by her ear. She leaned sideways, the white dress set off her exquisite and well-proportioned figure. She had an elegant temperament like a lotus. As if she felt everyone's strange gaze, Su Wan, who was holding a wine glass and had something on her mind, suddenly turned her line of sight. This glance seemed to have penetrated through time and space, traversing the other side of the ocean, traversing through 8 years of time. The two people's gazes unexpectedly met in midair. Almost instinctively, Xiao Jing Mo stared blankly at Su Wan. Unconsciously, he already loosened the hand that was holding Luo Chu Chu. Su Wan's gaze was especially pure. She also quietly looked at Xiao Jing Mo. Her red lips slightly opened, as if she wanted to say something. However, her gaze glanced at Luo Chu Chu beside Xiao Jing Mo. Su Wan's gaze darkened and somewhat hesitated. In the end, she still avoided Xiao Jing Mo's gaze. The atmosphere between the two of them was very subtle, and the surrounding guests also stopped whispering to each other. From the moment Luo Chu Chu appeared, most of the people who had seen Su Wan could see that this Chief Xiao's female companion was unexpectedly very similar to EVFA's Chief Su. Of course, when they compared the two people at a close distance, everyone quickly discovered the difference between the two people. Luo Chu Chu, who was born poor, didn't have Su Wan's innate temperament. Especially when the two people were wearing the same colored gift, the difference between them was clear. Su Wan. The moment Xiao Jing-mo released her, Luo Chu-chu also saw Su Wan. At that moment, Luo Chu-chu's heart plummeted in an instant. She couldn't hear the whispers of the surrounding guests, but Luo Chu-chu felt that those people were looking at her with ridicule in their eyes, as if they were looking at a counterfeit that was about to be abandoned. Yes, she had always been a substitute for that woman, hadn't she? Not long ago, Luo Chu-chu was still looking at her new self in the mirror and feeling particularly happy. But at this moment, seeing Su Wan's outfit that was almost the same as hers, Luo Chu-chu suddenly felt that the dress on her body was particularly ridiculous. It turned out that Xiao Jing-mo's so-called "weight suits you the most" was a lie. His heart only had Su Wan, and his eyes only had Su Wan. He dressed himself more and more like Su Wan, but unfortunately, she was not his Su Wan after all. Luo Chu-chu's complexion changed again and again. She unconsciously bit her lips, and a trace of blood seeped out of her red lips. Unfortunately, she already couldn't feel the pain. Time seemed to be extended infinitely at this moment. Luo Chu-chu felt that under the lights, she was like a ridiculous clown in front of everyone. Su Wan had long turned her gaze away. Xiao Jing-mo also recovered from his momentary absent-mindedness. Both of them were cultured people. Naturally, they must be generous and appropriate on this kind of occasion. Chu-chu. When Xiao Jing-mo once again held Luo Chu-chu's hand, he was ruthlessly flung away by Luo Chu-chu. Xiao Jing-mo's eyes immediately darkened. Normally, she liked to throw a tantrum. He only thought that she was simple, naive, and ignorant of worldly affairs. He always went along with her. No matter what trouble she caused, or who she provoked, Xiao Jing-mo would help her handle everything. But today was Xiao Jing-mo's birthday. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, she actually dared to fling away his hand. Luo Chu-chu. Xiao Jing-mo leaned to the side and fiercely whispered in Luo Chu-chu's ear. Luo Chu-chu's whole body trembled. She felt that Xiao Jing-mo was really angry. Her whole person immediately wilted again. Hesitating, she still obediently held Xiao Jing-mo's hand. In the end, Luo Chu-chu's experience was still too shallow. She, who was usually loved and pampered by Xiao Jing-mo, was not like those mature and elegant women who knew how to look at a man's face and knew when to give her man the biggest face. Su Wan was still quietly drinking alone, as if the surrounding clamor had nothing to do with her. The banquet officially began. For the first dance of the banquet, as expected, Xiao Jing-mo naturally chose Luo Chu-chu as his dance partner. Looking at Xiao Jing-mo and Luo Chu-chu dancing gracefully in the banquet hall, the one with the worst expression was naturally Fang Ziwen. She asked herself that she was Xiao Jing-mo's genuine fiancé. This time, he also personally sent an invitation to her. In the end, he actually held another woman's hand and showed off his affection. What was this? Demonstrating to her? Or ridiculing her for overestimating her capabilities? Fang Ziwen's beautiful face was calm. She almost crushed the wine cup in her hand. Ziwen, why are you alone? At this time, Ouyang Jing, who was wearing a red low-cut dress, came in front of Fang Ziwen while holding a wine cup. Ouyang family and Fang family had always had a good relationship. Ouyang Jing and Fang Ziwen could be considered to have grown up together. Although the two people didn't often play together, Ouyang Jing always treated Fang Ziwen especially well. When she was a child, Fang Ziwen still thought that she was especially likable. As she slowly grew up, Fang Ziwen also clearly understood that Ouyang Jing treated her well everywhere because she fancied her tyrant-like brother and wanted to be her sister-in-law. Ever since she understood this matter, Fang Ziwen rarely had contact with Ouyang Jing. Although the bottom of her heart was very afraid and sometimes she didn't even like her big brother, in Fang Ziwen's opinion, a woman like Ouyang Jing simply wasn't worthy of her big brother. I like to be alone. Do you have an opinion? Seeing that Ouyang Jing had already sat beside her, minding her own business, Fang Ziwen still didn't give her a good expression. Ouyang Jing just gently smiled. You wouldn't be jealous because of Xiao Jingmo's female companion, right? Jealous? Just based on her, is she worthy? Fang Ziwen still sneered. That kind of commoner, as long as she used a little trick, she could consign her to eternal damnation. But right now, Fang Ziwen still didn't want to make things awkward with Xiao Jingmo, so she didn't touch Luo Chu Chu. In Fang Ziwen's opinion, Xiao Jingmo would one day get tired of that Luo Chu Chu who didn't know anything. At that time, no one would support her. If she wanted to play her to death, it would be effortless. Ziwen actually saw it clearly. Ouyang Jing smiled and took a sip of red wine. That woman is nothing more than a substitute, nothing more. Now that the main person has returned, I reckon that she won't be able to be proud for a few days. As she said this, Ouyang Jing's gaze seemed to inadvertently glance at Su Wan, who was not far away. It's that woman. Ouyang Jing's expression didn't change, but in fact, she was very concerned in her heart. From the moment Fang Zimu came in tonight, Ouyang Jing's gaze was stuck on him. Even when he quietly left the venue, Ouyang Jing also followed him. What Ouyang Jing didn't expect was that Fang Zimu would actually openly hit people at Xiao Jia's banquet. And the man who was beaten black and blue and finally escaped was Su Wan's male companion. Fang Zimu, what was his relationship with Su Wan in the end? It was said that a woman's intuition was the most accurate. Ouyang Jing's intuition told her that there was definitely a story between Fang Zimu and Su Wan. Regarding Su Wan and Xiao Jingmo's matter, it was actually not a secret in their circle. But before Su Wan returned to China, she was just a person's name, nothing more. And now, when this woman appeared alive in front of everyone, Ouyang Jing immediately felt danger. That seemingly harmless woman made her feel particularly dangerous. Out of a woman's selfishness, Ouyang Jing finally seized an opportunity to have a heart-to-heart talk with Fang Ziwen. Her purpose was to let Fang Ziwen shift her attention to Su Wan. Chapter 43. Sister Wan, my family really has an urgent matter. You mustn't be angry. That's it, I'm hanging up. Su Wan held the phone with an indifferent face and listened to Chin Wei hurriedly hang up the phone. She somewhat helplessly put the phone back into her small handbag. This is unreliable. He slipped away before the dance party even started. Moreover, he even drove the company's car away. This kind of assistant, if she didn't deduct his salary, she would be sorry to herself. At this time, the first dance was already halfway through. Perhaps it was because of Xiao Jingmo's relationship, but no one took the initiative to invite Su Wan to dance. Su Wan was also happy to be quiet. Since Chen Wei had left, Su Wan thought that she and Xiao Jingmo also met face to face today. The purpose of her trip could be considered to have been completed. Perhaps it would be good to leave early. Alright, in fact, she wanted to leave early. Otherwise, it would be difficult to get a taxi back to the city. Thinking about it in her heart, Su Wan hurriedly ate something. Just as the first dance ended, she slowly stood up. She was about to turn around and walk towards the door when she was stopped by a low voice. Young Miss Su finally came. Su Wan slowly turned around and saw Su Rui standing not far from her. He faintly smiled at her. I don't know if this Fang has the honor to ask you for a dance. The second dance's music also happened to start at this time. From the corner of her eyes, she caught a glimpse of Xiao Jingmo's approaching figure. Su Wan looked at Su Rui and faintly smiled at him. I'm willing to accompany you. As she spoke, she lightly lifted her wrist. Su Rui stepped forward a few steps and gracefully and gentlemanly held her fingertips. his other arm wrapped around her slender waist. With a forceful turn, the two people immediately turned to the dance floor at the side. Not far away, Xiao Jingmo's footsteps slightly paused. He looked at Su Wan and Fang Zimu dancing gracefully on the dance floor. The two people had a special tacit understanding and were dancing gracefully. A talented man and a beautiful woman. For a moment, Xiao Jingmo's mood was extremely irritable. In fact, when Su Wan returned to China, he already knew. It's just that he never had the opportunity to meet her. Xiao Jingmo never thought that he would reunite with Su Wan on his birthday. Towards Su Wan, Xiao Jingmo's feelings were particularly complicated. She was the first woman he fell in love with in this life and also the woman he once loved the most. Of course, at the same time, Su Wan was also the only woman who hurt him in this life. In his feelings towards her, there was love and hate, there was unforgettable reluctance, and there was also angry resentment. Now, these complicated feelings were mixed together. When he saw Wan, Jing Xiao Jingmo and Fang Zimu, Wan, Xiao, 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 and Xiao 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 Jing Xiao. Xiao. Thou. 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 The Su. Thou. 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 The. Thou. Thou. The Wan. The. Wan. Thou. 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 The Wan. Thou. Thou. The T. The way. Thou. 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 The Wan, the dot. When she was wholeheartedly dancing, Su Wan's gaze was gentle and clear. She, who was immersed in the dance steps, put down her usual pretense and vigilance, and just concentrated on dancing to the tune. Right now, she looked exceptionally elegant and charming. In the end, the dance music got faster and faster. Su Wan and Su Rui's dance steps also sped up. In the last few beats, Su Rui suddenly hugged Su Wan's waist tightly, letting her stick to his body. The two people's bodies intimately touched each other. The dangerous and scorching aura and the imprisonment that she couldn't escape from made Su Wan return to her senses. She slightly narrowed her eyes and caught a glimpse of Su Rui's bottomless eyes. At the last beat of the dance song, Su Wan was still tightly held in Su Rui's arms until the curtain fell. There was a vacuum around them. The two of them seemed to be isolated from the world. Su Rui slightly lowered his head, his expression calm as he looked at Su Wan in his arms. After a short interval, the third dance song had already been played. This was a particularly soothing and melodious slow dance song. Su Wan raised her head and looked at Su Rui. The two of them didn't speak. The corner of Su Rui's lips slightly raised into an enchanting arc. He let go of one hand, still holding Su Wan's waist with one hand. Su Wan gracefully spun, from Su Rui's right side to his left side. The two people crossed their hands and changed their posture. They actually very tacitly started the second dance. There were still many people in the crowd watching Su Wan and Su Rui's dance with sparkling eyes. Perhaps it was because their dance was too elegant and in tune, or perhaps it was because the two of them were extremely good-looking. Standing together, it was extremely pleasing to the eyes. Just like this, one dance after another, until the dance song ended. Su Rui kept holding Su Wan's hand, not letting go until the end. This crazy big pervert. When Su Wan left the dance floor, not only was she dizzy, the most important thing was that her feet hurt. One must know that Su Rui had been wearing flat and comfortable leather shoes, but she was wearing several centimeter high heels to dance with him. Seeing that Su Wan's steps were a bit forced when she walked, Su Rui couldn't help but curve his lips. "Do you want me to carry you?" The deep male voice carried an unconcealable smile. "No, no need." Su Wan answered while gnashing her teeth, but her face always hung an enchanting smile. So, looking at the two of them not far away, those who didn't know would think that the two of them were talking and laughing merrily, deeply affectionate. So, sometimes, what you see with your eyes isn't necessarily the truth. Sitting back on the sofa in the corner, Su Wan immediately asked for a cup of wine and quietly tasted 2 mouthfuls. Su Rui was calm and unruffled as he sat opposite her, releasing a low-pressure cold air to the surroundings while staring at Su Wan without blinking. In this world, Su Wan's appearance was considered particularly outstanding, but Su Rui wasn't actually looking at her face. In fact, he was just feeling. Only when he was so quiet and close at hand, could he clearly feel the unique aura of her soul. Especially clean and singular, especially familiar aura. This kind of aura made him feel very comfortable, very cordial. At this time, the banquet had already gone on for more than half of the time. After the dance song ended, Xiao family's housekeeper pushed out a 10-layer big cake from the long corridor. Today was Xiao Jingmo's birthday, the focus of the entire audience and the birthday boy. The cake was directly pushed in front of him. Xiao Jingmo was somewhat absent-minded and Luo Chu, who was beside him, also didn't have a smile on her face. He could only blame Su Wan and Su Rui's performance just now for being too wonderful. The noisy guests stole the host's graceful bearing. Seeing Su Wan and another man dancing intimately and tacitly, Xiao Jingmo's mood became more and more irritable. At this moment, the corner of his eyes was still watching Su Wan, who was not far away. Cutting the cake was the most important program of today's banquet. Su Wan naturally had to support the birthday boy like the others. She also left the sofa at this time and followed the crowd to Xiao Jingmo's side. Maybe it was because her feet were too uncomfortable. Halfway through, Su Wan didn't know who tripped her and her body almost fell to the ground. Xiao Jingmo, who had been staring at her, saw that Su Wan had an accident. His expression tightened and subconsciously wanted to lift his leg and run to her. Unfortunately, the distance between the two people was too far, and at the same time, Su Rui, who had always been not far from Su Wan, already quickly stepped forward to support her. "Thank you." Su Wan tidied up her dress and brushed away Su Rui's hand without a trace. The moment she raised her eyes, Su Wan's gaze fell on the red color in the crowd. Chapter 44. Without waiting for Xiao family's banquet to truly end, Su Wan took advantage of a gap that no one noticed and left early. The night wind blew on her body and it was cold. Su Wan simply took off her high heels and walked out step by step along the path outside the villa with bare feet that were already red and swollen. Some old memories, you don't need to deliberately recall. It will suddenly jump into your mind at some point in time. Su Wan somewhat couldn't remember everything about her past, but she still vaguely remembered that she used to like to dance. Yes, at that time, she especially liked to dance. Every time Su family's banquet, she would be the well-deserved focus. At that time. Su Wan lightly sighed in the night wind. People were most afraid to look back on the past because many of the past events were unbearable to look back on. She didn't know when the sound of a car driving sounded behind her. Su Wan simply dodged to the side of the road. In the darkness of the night, a red Porsche sports car slowly stopped by Su Wan's side. Ouyang Jing, who was wearing a red skirt, smiled and affectionately looked at Su Wan on the side of the road. "Miss Su, are you all right? Do you want me to send you back to the city?" Facing Ouyang Jing's smile, Su-won hesitantly nodded, then I'll have to trouble Miss Ouyang. Seeing Su-won get in the car, Ouyang Jing slyly smiled and started the engine. The car sped away in an instant. Xiao family's villa was a distance away from the city, but if you drove, it actually wouldn't take too long. Su-won sat in Ouyang Jing's car. The car was filled with a faint fragrance. Su-won somewhat tiredly leaned on the front passenger seat and unknowingly fell asleep. Seeing that Su-won had fallen asleep, Ouyang Jing made a sharp turn and the car sped away in another direction away from the city. If the matter of Su-won and Su-won dancing together at the ball tonight made Xiao Jing-imo feel irritated and jealous, then when it came to Ouyang Jing, it became complete jealousy and hatred. In Ouyang Jing's memory, Fang Zimu didn't care about any woman. Recently, Ouyang Jing only felt that Fang Zimu and Luo Chu-chu seemed to be a bit close, but Luo Chu-chu was Xiao Jing-mo's person after all. Ouyang Jing didn't believe that the two of them could have any further relationship. But tonight, when she saw Su-won for the first time in the banquet hall, the sense of crisis in Ouyang Jing's heart immediately burst. After all, Su-won and Luo Chu-chu were too similar. Moreover, when Fang Zimu held Su-won and danced, that kind of gaze could not deceive people. Ouyang Jing had never seen such a serious and focused Fang Zimu. And tonight, all his seriousness and focus were given to another woman. Originally, it was not only one person who used Luo Chu-chu as a substitute. Ouyang Jing didn't know how Fang Zimu knew Su-won. Maybe the two people met abroad. Perhaps they had been together before. In short, at this time, Ouyang Jing's imagination was running wild. Along the way, she had already imagined dozens of versions of the love and hate between Fang Zimu and Su-won. Every version made her hate her to the point that her teeth itched. The road became more and more remote, and the expression on Ouyang Jing's face became more and more gloomy. Finally, Ouyang Jing parked the sports car at the foot of a barren mountain. This place was the unmarked burial mound that everyone in Xiang City would talk about. Even if the economy was rapidly developing and the real estate industry was making money every day, there wasn't a single real estate developer in Xiang City who dared to have any ideas on this barren mountain because this place was really too strange. Coming down from the car, Ouyang Jing shivered and a layer of fine goosebumps appeared all over her body. She clenched her teeth and quickly turned to the other side of the car. She opened the car door and supported Su-won, who had already fainted, down. It's actually quite heavy. Ouyang Jing muttered to herself and let Su-won's entire body lean on her. She used both her hands to strenuously support Su-won and walked towards the foot of the mountain step by step. Humph, this time I won't scare you to death. With great difficulty, she supported Su-won to the side of an old and dilapidated tombstone. Ouyang Jing cautiously bowed towards that tombstone. Just as she was about to turn around and leave, she suddenly felt a pain at the back of her neck. Her body softened and she fainted in front of the tombstone. Behind Ouyang Jing, Su-won unhurriedly stood up and used both hands to flick off the dust on her skirt. Su-won took a few steps forward and used the tip of her foot to kick Ouyang Jing's body. Seeing that she really fainted, Su-won unhurriedly squatted down and took the small bag that Ouyang Jing always carried with her. She looted the cell phone, wallet, and car keys inside. In this desolate mountain and wilderness, even if she wasn't scared to death, she would still have to feed the mosquitoes for the whole night. Su-won turned the car keys on her fingertips and waved her hand behind her when she turned around. I'll leave first. I'll have to trouble everyone to take care of this beauty Ouyang. Behind her, besides Ouyang Jing, there was no one else. But as if in response to Su-won's words, at the quiet foot of the mountain, there was suddenly a mountain breeze gently blowing, bringing with it a chill that made people tremble. The streamlined and elegant sports car slid across a silver track on the mountain path. Su Wan drove Ouyang Jing's car into the city and then found a blind spot of the surveillance to pull the car over. She casually threw the car keys and wallet into the sewer not far away. After doing all this, she circled to another street not far away and took a taxi to leave. During the entire process, Su Wan was very calm and indifferent, not the slightest trace of nervousness could be seen. After a while of tossing and turning, when Su Wan returned to her high-class apartment in Xiang City, it was already after midnight. She put in some hot water and comfortably took a bath. After that, she entered the land of dreams with tiredness. This night, Su Wan slept very well, but many people couldn't sleep all night because of her. Xiao Jing Mo didn't stay at the lakeside villa for the night. Luo Chu Chu stayed alone in the villa's guest room and didn't close her eyes for the whole night. Ouyang Jing woke up at the foot of the barren mountain in the early morning. As soon as she opened her eyes, she saw the broken tombstone close at hand. Her eyes rolled back and she fainted from fright again. Under Su Wan's apartment, a black Maserati was quietly parked. The window rolled down halfway, revealing Su Rui's handsome face. He leaned on the seat and stared at the floor where Su Wan lived. He didn't close his eyes all night until the sky brightened. Hawkers selling breakfast and newspapers began to gather under the apartment. A busy day began again. Su Rui rolled up the window and drove the car, slowly disappearing into the street, as if he had never appeared. Chapter 45. Chief Su, this is Assistant Shin's leave slip. As soon as Su Wan entered the company's door in the morning, the receptionist at the front desk respectfully handed over a notice of leave to Su Wan. Su Wan glanced at Qin Wei's neat and handsome notebook. Her hands didn't move, but her pair of peach blossom eyes involuntarily narrowed. You tell Qin Wei, either you come to work or you directly give me a resignation letter. The time limit is half an hour. In the end, who gave him the guts to actually have the face to write a leave slip? She still hasn't settled the accounts with him for yesterday's matter. Seeing Su Wan turn around and enter the company's exclusive elevator without hesitation, the little beauty at the front desk pouted and quickly dialed Qin Wei's number. Qin Ji, I really tried my best. Chief Su is really too serious. Half an hour later, Qin Wei appeared in Su Wan's office, drenched in sweat. Boss. Qin Wei wiped the sweat on his forehead while cautiously looking at Su Wan on the boss's chair. You're 1 minute and 27 seconds late. Su Wan expressionlessly raised her head. Seeing Qin Wei's pig face, Su Wan froze for a moment and then slightly raised her eyebrows. This is the reason why you don't go to work. Ah. Qin Wei's swollen face that was beaten into a pig's head revealed a complicated and tangled emotion at the moment. It was truly too unsightly to look at. Su Wan simply turned her gaze to the computer at the side and looked at the stock trend chart on the screen. Haoyue Group stock had a small increase in the past few days. Seeing that Su Wan no longer looked at him with a strange expression, Qin Wei finally breathed a sigh of relief. He didn't dare to directly tell Su Wan that his bruised and swollen face was all thanks to young Master Fang. Speaking of petty, possessive, and jealous men, it's not like Qin Wei hadn't seen them before but he, young Master Fang, was really too unreasonable, right? Wasn't he just grabbed to be Sister Wan's male companion? The most intimate action was to hold her arm. He didn't even touch Su Wan's fingertips. In the end, he was blocked by Fang Zimu in the bathroom cubicle in Xiao family. That was called a fat beating. The injuries on his face were light. Those places on his body that couldn't be seen were the ones that were really painful. Thinking of Fang Zimu's beating methods that were comparable to the FBI's torture methods, Qin Wei still felt his whole body hurt badly. I can't afford to provoke him, so I must hide. Sister Wan. Qin Wei, who had made up his mind to take a detour when he saw young Master Fang in the future, began to struggle with the problem of his job. "Why are you still here?" Soo-won heard Chen Wei's voice and turned to look at him again. "You don't have work today." "That. Sister Won, do you think can I change my position?" Chen Wei cautiously smiled at Soo-won. "You see, I made such a big mistake these past 2 days, You're right." Soo-won raised her hand and used her slender fingers to knock on the documents on her desk. "Go report to the business department on the 4th floor today. I will let the personnel department arrange for an assistant." Chen Wei looked at Soo-won in astonishment. In all honesty, he just didn't want to continue working as an assistant, this high-risk occupation, that's all. He didn't plan to directly be demoted to the business department downstairs and start all over again. "Sister Won, boss Soo. Look at me, actually Chen Wei was anxious and didn't know where to start. He danced with joy in front of Soo-won for a long time, and he was also sweating profusely. Then it settled. Soo-won didn't look at Chen Wei's anxious and twisted facial features. She made the final decision and transferred Chen Wei's work. Seeing Chen Wei drooping his head and going back to pack up his personal belongings, Soo-won smiled and took out her personal tablet computer from the drawer of her desk. She skillfully unlocked the password and logged into her foreign bank account. Seeing the 8 digits of deposit inside, Soo-won couldn't help but frown. This money was only a fraction compared to the total assets of Haoyue Group, nothing more. It seems that with her current status, wanting to shake Xiao family by herself was an impossible task. Fortunately, Soo-won leaned on the chair and unconsciously thought of Su Rui. He was now Fang family's eldest young master, and at the same time, he should also be Luo Chu-chu's pursuer. Although she was still uncertain how Su Rui would treat Luo Chu-chu, at least, Su Rui and Xiao Jingmo's identities were opposed. The enemy of my enemy is my ally. And, although he wasn't a very reliable ally, at least he was still very useful, wasn't he? EVFA brand was a very popular high-end brand in Huaxia region. Under its banner, it operated high-class men's clothing, men's perfume, as well as a variety of men's skincare products. Soo-won had already parachuted into Xiang City for a period of time. During this period of time, she finally finished handing over all the work left behind by her predecessor. Currently, the company's most important work was the autumn new product launch and the issue of the new spokesperson. Originally, EVFA's Huaxia region spokesperson was Huaxia's popular fashionista, Chu Qin. As a result, 2 months ago, Chu Qin was exposed as having an extramarital affair in his marriage. This made his reputation in the circle plummet. EVFA naturally terminated Chu Qin's contract because of this. Now that the spokesperson's position was empty, there were a lot of brokerage companies that took the initiative to contact them, but no one could enter Soo-won's eyes. Soo-won was used to sparing no effort to act as anyone. She would do her best to do any work. EVFA's consumers were high-income elites. At first, it was because Chu Qin had a domineering CEO face that the company took a fancy to him and let him be the spokesperson. But now, the extramarital affair scandal had seriously affected EVFA's reputation and sales. It must be known that the majority of men's products, in fact, were mainly purchased by women. No woman would like a brand endorsed by a person who was unfaithful to their feelings, and his wife thought she was busy in the office for another day. The employees of each department had already gotten off work and left the company one after another. Soo-won rubbed the space between her eyebrows and casually threw the pile of information and pictures of the pretty boy on her desk into the trash can. Only then did she get up and pick up the coat that was placed on the chair and turn to leave her office. The underground parking lot was much more spacious than it was during the day. Every step that Soo-won took in high heels would ring out a crisp echo in the empty parking lot. The company arranged a white speed-ting sedan for her. When Chen Wei resigned this morning, he already returned the key to Soo-won. But Soo-won didn't expect that Chin-wei, that unreliable guy, would park his car in the innermost part of the parking lot. Soo-won. Before Soo-won could walk to her car, she was stopped by Xiao Jing-mo. Hearing Xiao Jing-mo's deep and pleasant voice, Soo-won froze for a moment. Her body stiffly slowly turned around and saw Xiao Jing-mo leaning sideways on a limited edition black Corvette. It symbolized the luxury and elegance of a top-notch sports car, matched with a handsome and domineering CEO. This luxurious set lineup, don't know if there's a half price for the second set. Chief Xiao. No matter how much she ridiculed in her heart, Soo-won still looked at Xiao Jing-mo with a gaze that seemed to want to say something. Originally, when he heard Soo-won's unfamiliar address, Xiao Jing-mo's heart was very irritated. But when he saw her affectionate gaze looking at him, Xiao Jing-mo's mood suddenly calmed down. How about finding a place to talk? Xiao Jing-mo smiled at Soo-won and turned around to open the sports car's door in a very gentlemanly manner. All right. Chapter 46. Xiao Jing-mo parked the car in front of a Japanese restaurant. He remembered that when Soo-won was in school, she especially liked to eat sushi. Unfortunately, at that time, he and his mother were living in poverty and never had the opportunity to treat her to a good meal. Now, he already had wealth and status that ordinary people couldn't accumulate in several lifetimes. He could treat her to Xiang City's most expensive restaurant, eat top-notch ingredients flown in by air, and enjoy the craftsmanship of a world-class chef. These were things that they never dared to hope for in the past. Coming down from the sports car, Soo-won saw the restaurant sign and was stunned, seemingly having a myriad of thoughts. Go in, I've already booked a room. Xiao Jing-mo's voice was still pleasant to listen to and deep. He was the platinum VIP here and had always been able to enjoy the most thoughtful service. However, when she heard Xiao Jing-mo's words, Soo-won still stood at the door and didn't have the intention to go in. Her gaze just wandered around the restaurant's entrance and both sides of the street. The corner of her lips slowly pulled up into a slightly bitter smile. I thought you always remembered. Turns out, you already forgot everything. Soo-won's tone was full of self-mockery. Xiao Jing-mo, you only see the prosperity in front of you. You only remember the pain of the past. In the past that you abandoned, it actually wasn't only betrayal and poverty. Those old days that were buried in dust also had sweetness and happiness. Ah. Soo-won. Hearing Soo-won's words, Xiao Jing-mo's expression really changed. He followed Soo-won's gaze and looked at the restaurant's entrance and then looked at both sides of the street. When he clearly saw the street sign and the luxuriant old poplar tree at the crossroads, Xiao Jing-mo's expression immediately changed. This place is actually. This used to be a bookstore. It's the place where we dated for the first time. At that time, there were no e-books that were increasingly popular, no tablets, and even online games were very rare. On Soo-won and Xiao Jing-mo's first date, they originally planned to go to Xiang City's largest park by car at the intersection of this street. Unfortunately, the weather wasn't good. There was a shower that day. The two people first stood under the old poplar tree to take shelter from the rain. Seeing that the old shirt on Xiao Jing-mo's body was drenched, Soo-won felt distressed and dragged him to a bookstore across the street. Soo-won used to frequent this bookstore. She was very familiar with the female owner who managed the bookstore. That day, she borrowed a hairdryer from the bookstore owner to help Xiao Jing-mo dry his clothes and hair. The two people didn't go anywhere that day and just sat in front of the bookstore. While watching the drizzle outside the window, they enjoyed the sweet time of being alone for the first time. It's been 8 years. Soo-won sighed with some emotion. I didn't expect Sister Lu's study room to become a Japanese restaurant. Hearing Soo-won sigh, Xiao Jingmo also gradually recalled many past events that he had deliberately forgotten. It was said that time was the most ruthless thing in this world. At this moment, Xiao Jingmo finally had a deep understanding of it. In the past 8 years, he was tightly bound by the feelings of those years. He refused to accept any woman's closeness. In the past 8 years, the only one who got close to him was Luo Chu, who had 60% to 70% imagination with Su Wan. He treated Luo Chu as Su Wan's substitute, but it wasn't the emotional substitute that other people imagined. Xiao Jingmo had thought more than once that if Su Wan knew that he would be Xiao family's only heir, would she still choose to leave him? In these 8 years, Xiao Jingmo was not reconciled. 8 years ago, he felt cheated and betrayed. At that time, he was a pauper, while Su Wan was the daughter of a rich family. At that time, many people talked behind their backs, saying that the two of them couldn't grow up. Su Wan was definitely just playing with Xiao Jingmo. Hearing those words, Xiao Jingmo didn't care at first. Until Su Wan left the country without a word, he felt like a fool. He was ridiculed by others, played and abandoned by Su Wan. Since then, Su Wan became a dead knot in Xiao Jingmo's heart. This knot, no one could untie it for him, until he met Luo Chu again. Xiao Jingmo gave Luo Chu the best of everything and doted on her the most. Through Luo Chu, he seemed to see the Su Wan of that year. Su Wan, you see, I can give you what you want. In fact, I can even give you everything that you can't even imagine. Now, do you regret it? Regret it? From the beginning to the end, what Xiao Jingmo wanted was only Su Wan's regret. As for the love of the two people, perhaps as early as when his mother passed away, the moment he was forgotten by the world, he was buried by himself. Xiao Jingmo had long stopped loving Su Wan. Even later, he and Su Wan reconciled because he knew the truth of that year. His heart felt a kind of guilt towards Su Wan, nothing more. The pitiful Su Wan of this world actually naively thought that Xiao Jingmo had always loved her for 8 years. In the end, for Xiao Jingmo, she even lost her life. How about, we go to another restaurant to eat? After a long silence, Xiao Jingmo opened his mouth again, his tone somewhat complicated. It's alright, this place is good. I also haven't eaten cuisine for a long time. Su Wan put away the sadness on her face and gave Xiao Jingmo a shallow smile. The two people, one in front and one behind, entered the restaurant's entrance. They hadn't seen each other for 8 years. This was the first time the two people had a meal alone after reuniting after a long time. Fortunately, the two people today were already elites in the business world. Apart from the slight awkwardness at the beginning, the atmosphere of the two people eating this meal was still considered cheerful. You've always been abroad. Now that you've returned to Xiang City, are you used to living? Regarding Su Wan's private life, Xiao Jingmo seemed to be quite concerned. Hearing his question, Su Wan just smiled. There's nothing to be used to. These years, I've been relying on myself to fight my way through. It's not like I haven't experienced situations that are more difficult and more arduous than this. Speaking till here, Su Wan couldn't help but raise her eyes and deeply look at Xiao Jingmo. You've been quite popular these past few years. I can even see reports of you in financial magazines when I'm abroad. You've seen them. Hearing Su Wan's words, Xiao Jingmo's expression suddenly had a slight change. Why didn't you contact me? Just 4 years ago, there was a foreign financial magazine that gave Xiao Jingmo an exclusive interview. At first, he didn't intend to accept it. Later, he inadvertently found out that the area where the magazine was distributed also happened to cover the university that Su Wan was in at that time. Coincidentally, Xiao Jingmo agreed to that interview. He also specially revealed his love life in the interview, saying that he had a first-love girlfriend that he had been separated from for many years. Although he couldn't contact her, he still loved her. At that time, Xiao Jingmo thought that if Su Wan saw the magazine, maybe she would take the initiative to contact him. Unfortunately, he never waited for that day. "Why didn't you contact me?" Xiao Jingmo blurted out a question, revealing his true feelings. Su Wan's hands paused for a moment. In that instant, her entire body froze. "Actually, no, nothing." Su Wan subconsciously drooped her eyes, concealing her true emotions. "I wanted to contact you at that time, but I was very busy with my studies at that time. I was so busy that I forgot about this matter, and..." Su Wan paused, as if she was trying hard to adjust her emotions. "Don't you already have a new girlfriend now? She seems to be a pretty good person. You have to properly cherish her." "Ah." Luo Chu Chu. Xiao Jingmo thought of Luo Chu Chu and his eyes slightly softened. Although sometimes Luo Chu Chu was so pure that it was almost silly, he liked her, this kind of silly girl without any schemes. This kind of person would never betray and hurt him. Regarding Xiao Jingmo's love life, Su Wan didn't ask too much. The two people only kept the topic of conversation on work and other matters. Until they finished eating and walked out of the restaurant's entrance, Su Wan seemed to suddenly think of something. She somewhat hesitantly called out to Xiao Jingmo, "Chief Xiao, I have something to talk to you about." Seeing that Su Wan had changed to a formal form of address, Xiao Jingmo was first stunned. Because they chatted happily during the meal just now, the two people's address also recovered from the initial estrangement to a more intimate form of address from before. "Our company will soon hold a new product launch for the latest quarter. Before the launch, a new brand spokesperson must be confirmed and a brand new print advertisement must be made." Speaking till here, Su Wan's gaze sized up Xiao Jingmo from head to toe. "Chief Xiao, I think you are the best candidate for the spokesperson in my mind." "You see." "Su Wan, are you joking?" The expression on Xiao Jingmo's face was somewhat helpless. "You want me to help you shoot an advertisement?" Feeling Xiao Jingmo's increasingly cold aura, Su Wan didn't feel timid and just calmly looked back at him. "That's right, no matter if it's your appearance or your own aura, you are the type that our EVFA needs the most. Don't joke." Xiao Jingmo shook his head at Su Wan. "If you can't find a good spokesperson because of your connections, I can help you find one. Which celebrity you fancy, just tell me directly. I'll help you settle it." Xiao Jingmo didn't believe Su Wan's words at all. He felt that Su Wan should want to ask for his help, but was embarrassed to open her mouth, so she used this roundabout way to ask for help. "Since you think it's a joke, then forget it." Su Wan waved her hand at Xiao Jingmo. "I'll leave first, goodbye." Not waiting for Xiao Jingmo to answer, Su Wan had already turned around and left with large strides. Looking at her departing back, Xiao Jingmo concentrated. After a moment, he took out his cell phone and called his assistant. "Wen Yuan, help me check Su Wan's situation abroad for the past 8 years. Yes, the more detailed the better." Chapter 47. When Su Wan returned downstairs of the apartment, she saw the familiar Maserati at a glance. Su Rui was leaning against the side of the car, his slender legs comfortably crossed, his entire upper body leaning against the black car. Seeing Su Wan's figure, he slightly turned sideways, a pair of dark and narrow eyes looking straight at Su Wan's face. His bottomless gaze was intense and dangerous. Tonight, Su Rui wore a black windbreaker. The thick ink-like color made him look even colder and sharper. Under Su Rui's gaze, Su Wan walked in front of him step by step, "Waiting for me?" She raised her eyebrows, her tone as calm as ever. "You went to see Xiao Jingmo today?" Su Rui did not answer Su Wan's words, but instead asked her a question with a gloomy expression. "You found someone to follow me?" Hearing his words, Su-won narrowed her bewitching peach blossom eyes, the corners of her mouth raised as she looked at Su-rui in front of her with a smile that wasn't a smile. It's really distressing, you wouldn't be in love with me, right? I'm not in love with you. Su-rui's body leaned forward slightly, moving closer to Su-won. He lowered his head and stared intently at Su-won's eyes. I am thinking of you. From her sudden departure to the collapse of the entire plane, he walked out of the mountain of corpses and sea of blood, thinking that his heart had already died numbly. Until he was taken into the plane repair headquarters by Su-su and learned of her true identity. At that moment, Su-rui heard his long-lost heartbeat. Ha! Hearing Su-rui's words, Su-won just smiled faintly. It's good that you have ideals and pursuits, but you have to know that ideals and reality have always been worlds apart. Su-rui heard Su-won's mocking words but was not angry. He still maintained his posture just now, his eyes still locked on her. After experiencing the crazy baptism in many mission worlds, the current Su-rui was no longer the General Su of the Great Xia dynasty with soaring killing intent back then. His appearance was now more mature and elegant, and his heart was now more powerful and callous. If, in this world, Su-won, this first love, was a dead knot in Xiao Jingmo's heart, then, in Su-rui's world, that Su-won who left cruelly was a dead end in his heart. From the moment he met her, he was destined to be doomed. Being stared at by Su-rui, Su-won felt cold all over. Do you want to go up and sit for a bit? I happen to have something to talk to you about. Seeing Su-won take the initiative to invite him, Su-rui immediately nodded. The two people walked into the apartment one after the other. The apartment that Su-won lived in was a main room with 2 bedrooms and 1 living room. Before she moved in, it had been renovated. Su-won didn't touch the furniture in the room. After all, she didn't plan on fighting a protracted war in this world. I'm going to change. Help yourself. After changing into slippers, Su-won threw a sentence at Su-rui and turned around to return to her room to change clothes. Although a certain man had just shamelessly boasted that he wanted to fuck her, but fuck and force were 2 completely different methods. Therefore, Su-won was still very at ease with Su-rui. She was not worried that he would force her to do anything. By the time Su-won changed into a set of home clothes and came out, Su-rui had already taken off his windbreaker and was busy in the kitchen, minding his own business. What are you doing? Su-won curiously looked at Su-rui in the kitchen. I'm hungry. Make something to eat. Su-rui didn't seem to regard Su-won as an outsider at all. He replied to Su-won and turned on the gas stove in the kitchen. Su-won's kitchen was especially clean. She didn't usually eat at home, so all the kitchen utensils in the house were new. In addition to some beer and drinks in the fridge, there were only a few bags of noodles and a few eggs. She bought them in the supermarket last week when she was on holiday. Do you want to eat some more? Su-rui beat the eggs and asked towards the living room. I'm full. You don't need to bring my share. Su-won simply sat on the sofa and turned on the TV. At this time, it was the time when the first TV drama was broadcast. Hearing Su-won's answer, Su-rui in the kitchen didn't say anything. Su-won also comfortably sat on the sofa and watched the TV drama. When Su-rui walked out of the kitchen with the noodles, the male lead in the TV drama was trying his best to explain to the female lead because of some misunderstanding. Listen to my explanation, ah. Things aren't what you think. I'm not listening. Seeing that Su-won was watching with relish, Su-rui couldn't help but say, is that man stupid? Ah. Su-won turned her head and looked at Su-rui who sat beside her. What did you say? In this episode, Qing saw Jing Hong hugging another girl with her own eyes and she ran away from home in a fit of anger. In fact, that girl is Jing Hong's long-lost sister. Just now, he said so much nonsense. Why don't he just say that she's my sister? Wouldn't 5 words solve the problem? If he said it directly, what's the point of the TV drama? How do you want the second male lead to appear? What do you want the audience to see? Soo-won couldn't help but reply to Soo-ruo. Hearing Soo-won's words, Soo-ruo frowned again and then said in all seriousness, could it be that a relationship without a misunderstanding isn't true love? A woman that doesn't have other men fighting over isn't a good woman. It was Soo-won's first time seeing Soo-ruo so serious. Actually, isn't it just a melodramatic and brainless TV drama? Was it worth it? Inexplicably, Soo-won wanted to laugh. In the end, do you still want to eat noodles or not? Resisting the urge to laugh, Soo-won's gaze fell on the bowl of noodles in front of Soo-ruo. Seeing that the bowl was broken into small pieces that were almost as sticky as the top, Soo-won raised her eyebrows and cast a sidelong glance at Soo-ruo. This is the noodles you cooked? Ah. Soo-ruo rarely revealed a trace of embarrassment, it just took a bit too long, but the poached egg is cooked. As he spoke, he couldn't help but pick up the poached egg with his chopsticks and shake it in front of Soo-won. In the end, what was he showing off? Originally, seeing him rolling up his sleeves and busying himself in the kitchen, Soo-won was still curious. Sure enough, she shouldn't have had too much hope for Soo-ruo. How could this guy become a good family man? His hands were for holding swords and spears, not for frying eggs or slicing potatoes. Thinking that she still needed his help, Soo-won sighed and pressed down on Soo-ruo's chopsticks, forcing him to put down the bowl of noodles. Forget it, you're a guest. Is this poached egg enough for you to eat? Let me do it. Seeing Soo-won get up and walk towards the kitchen as she spoke, Soo-ruo's lips that had been slightly pursed up slightly. But before he could curve his lips, he saw Soo-won very skillfully pull out a business card from the bar counter at the entrance of the kitchen and nimbly make a phone call. Is it Zhang Family Restaurant? I want to order a meal. Order a meal. Order a meal. The smile that had just appeared on Soo-ruo's face instantly disappeared without a trace. Shouldn't he be cooking himself? That's how it's written in novels. So, General Soo, just how many melodramatic and brainless novels and TV dramas have you read recently? Chapter 48. Soo-won ordered 2 dishes and a soup from the small restaurant downstairs. Soo-ruo didn't seem to have much of an appetite. He ate very slowly and only ate half a bowl of rice when the 3 episodes of the TV series were over. Are you going to eat this for breakfast? Soo-won didn't expose Soo-ruo's little thoughts. She just used her hand to support her chin and looked at him with a teasing expression. Today's weather forecast says there will be a thunderstorm tonight. Soo-ruo put down his chopsticks and looked at Soo-won faintly. I'm not leaving tonight. Seeing his matter-of-fact appearance, Soo-won lightly raised her chin. I was born with great courage. I'm not afraid of rainstorms, thunder, and even more so, I'm not afraid of lightning. In short, I don't need anyone to accompany me. Do you understand? You're not afraid, I'm afraid. You stay with me. Soo-ruo's expression did not change and he answered without a guilty conscience. Soo-ruo, who kills without batting an eyelid, would be afraid of thunder and rain. What a joke. Seeing that he had made up his mind to stay, Soo-won was not anxious. She leaned against the back of the chair and looked at Soo-ruo leisurely. It's fine if you want to stay. I'll let you stay in the guest room, but I have a condition. As she spoke, Soo-won narrowed her eyes and sized Soo-ruo up a few times. You can be my spokesperson. Spokesperson. Soo-ruo looked at Soo-won in surprise. You're joking, right? Wasn't the spokesperson supposed to be a celebrity? Soo-ruo naturally knew what Soo-won did. He also knew that her company recently wanted to change to a new spokesperson, but in the entire Xiang city and even Huaxia's heavenly kings and international famous models were innumerable. No matter what, it wouldn't be his turn to ask an outsider to be the spokesperson, right? What's more, Su Rui was wearing the Fong family's young master's body right now. Who dared to ask him to be a spokesperson? How much endorsement fees would that be? Don't you want to do it? Su Wan stared at Su Rui. If you don't want to be our spokesperson, then we have nothing to say. Hurry up and leave after you finish eating. I'll contact Xiao Jing Mo tomorrow and let him. I'll do it. Su Rui suddenly loudly interrupted Su Wan's words. Isn't it just a spokesperson? I'll sign the contract tomorrow morning. All right, take your time and eat. I'll go clean up the guest room. Having achieved her goal, Su Wan turned around and left the dining room with a smile on her face. That night, just like Su Rui said, it really rained in the middle of the night. The thunder and lightning disturbed people's sleep. Su Rui didn't close his eyes that night. When he thought that Su Wan was living next door to him, his heart felt especially calm. At that time, she disappeared in front of him. Su Rui, who had almost sunk into insanity, brought his elite troops and massacred the imperial city of the Great Xia dynasty. That night, the bricks of the entire imperial city were dyed blood red, and the water of the moat was still red even after half a month. Ever since then, Su Rui felt like his heart was empty. No matter how he tried, he couldn't fill that gap. Only by killing non-stop could he calm himself down. He could no longer remember how many people he had killed, how many families and lives he had destroyed. Su Rui only remembered that one day, when he woke up, there was a man with a scholarly appearance and a light temperament standing in front of him. The man said, "This world is on the verge of collapse. Can I take you away from here?" "Leave." Su Rui's gaze at that time was cold and did not carry any breath of the human world. Why should I leave? Even if he was the only one left in this world, he would not leave. Otherwise, when Sheath came back one day, wouldn't he miss it? Seeing that Su Rui was unmoved, the scholarly man just smiled faintly. Don't you want to see her again? I can take you to her world. The world she was in, lost time-space. Welcome to join us. After Su Rui came to the lost time-space, he learned that the gentleman who brought him back was called Su Su, the Plane Restorer Headquarters No. 1. The entire lost spacetime was independent of the universe and was superior to the other lower planes of space. Did you bring everyone in the headquarters out of the collapse plane? Su Rui still remembered that at the Plane Restorer Headquarters, he had asked Su Su such a question. At that time, Su Su seemed to have paused for a moment before replying with a gentle expression, "Everyone's reason for appearing here is different. All these years, I've only brought back 2 people from the collapsed plane. You're the second. As for the first person, you also know her. She's Su Wan." Speaking of Su Wan, Su Su's tone was still calm, but he was unwilling to talk about Su Wan's past and the reason why Su Wan finally became a plane destroyer. At that time, Su Rui's heart was particularly uncalm. He only knew that Su Wan was a heartless woman. When he was in the Great Xia dynasty, Su Rui secretly vowed in his heart that if he could see her again, he must torture her ruthlessly and let her know how miserable the fate of abandoning him would be. However, since he learned from Su Su that Su Wan also came from a certain collapsed low-level plane, Su Rui's mood unconsciously became complicated. In the end, where did Su Wan come from? What had she experienced in the past? Chapter 49. Su Rui sent Su Wan to the company early in the morning and directly signed a 1-year endorsement contract with her. After signing the contract, Su Rui did not stay. After greeting Su Wan and agreeing on the time to shoot the commercial photos, he impatiently left. After handing over Su Rui's contract to the newly appointed assistant, Su Wan let out a long sigh of relief. This matter was finally settled. In fact, from the beginning, her target candidate was Su Rui and never Xiao Jingmo. She habitually opened the stock trend and looked at Haoyue Group's stock price today. The stock rose again. Although it was only a small increase, in such a stable period and in the absence of any good news, such an increase was enough to attract Haoyue Group's attention. It couldn't be Su Rui, right? Su Wan thought about it. It was possible that the person who was secretly buying Haoyue's shares like her, other than Su Rui, who else could it be? However, if that person was really Su Rui, Su Wan could only lament that he was still a bit weak in the financial aspect. The increase in these few days was somewhat obvious. She's afraid that it would alert the enemy and immediately arouse Xiao Jingmo's vigilance. This was actually not a good thing. Su Wan thought about it and still sent a text message to her stockbroker, telling him not to buy Haoyue's shares in these few days. After sending the message, Su Wan immersed herself in dealing with official business until the new assistant, Su Jia, knocked on the door and came in. Su Wan rubbed her somewhat sore shoulders and looked at the man with the glasses in front of her. "Chief Su, it's lunchtime. What do you want to eat for lunch?" Su Jia was a candidate directly transferred from the secretariat by the personnel department. He had been a secretary for many years and did everything in an orderly manner. He was much more reliable than that guy, Chen Wei. "Go to the company's cafeteria and buy me a boxed lunch." Su Wan subconsciously answered Su Jia. Su Jia, who was at the door, nodded and was about to turn and leave. Su Wan, who was in the office, suddenly saw the calendar on her desk. This day. Wait. Su Wan called out to Su Jia again, "Let's go out to eat. Today, I'll treat. Consider it as a celebration for your new assistant." Su Jia pushed up the glasses on the bridge of his nose and still looked at Su Wan with a gentle face. Then, "Thank you, Chief Su." "You're welcome." Su Wan took her carry-on bag and brought Su Jia to the underground parking lot to pick up the car. This time, she chose to have lunch in the center of Xiang City. The two people ate a sumptuous lunch. After coming out of the restaurant, Su Wan was not in a hurry to return to the company. Instead, she pulled Su Jia and went straight to the shopping mall at the side. Seeing Su Wan stop in front of a men's clothing store, Su Jia's eyes flashed with astonishment. EVFA, this brand, was rarely seen in Xiang City. Moreover, because it had always been in a cooperative relationship with Haoyue Group, EVFA's men's clothing had always only been sold and marketed in Haoyue Group's Haotian shopping mall. "Welcome." As soon as the two of them entered the door, a shop assistant greeted them with a smile. "Is there anything I can help you with?" "I want to buy a tie for my boyfriend." Su Wan smiled at the shopping guide and Su Jia subconsciously took half a step back, maintaining a safe distance from Su Wan. Yesterday, when he was told that he was going to serve as Su Wan's assistant, Su Jia specially went to the 4th floor to look for Chen Wei, wanting to carefully understand his new boss's temper and preferences. In the end, Chen Wei just glanced at Su Jia and said incomparably calmly, "There's nothing difficult to get along with Sister Wan. The one who is truly difficult to get along with is her man." As he spoke, Chen Wei raised his chin at Su Jia. Glancing at Su Jia's miserable face, even someone as calm as Su Jia immediately shivered. He became even more fearful of Su Wan's legendary boyfriend. When Su Wan arrived at the display cabinet where the ties were placed, she realized that Su Jia was already very far away from her. "What are you standing there for? Come over and help me try it." Su Wan turned her head and roared at Su Jia. Su Jia took small quick steps like a little wife and looked at Su Wan with a face full of hidden bitterness. "Chief Su, this is for your man, no, for your boyfriend. For me to try it. isn't too good, right? It was said that Chen Wei only became Su Wan's male companion once and was almost beaten to the point that he couldn't take care of himself. At this time, Su Jia was worried about his life and safety. What's inappropriate about it? You're not even a virgin girl, why are you being coy with me here? Su Wan really didn't expect her new assistant to be such an awkward person. Of course, if she knew what Chen Wei explained to Su Jia in the end, she might not think like this. Young Miss Su. Just when Su Jia was tangled about whether work or personal safety was more important, a woman's voice suddenly sounded behind the two people. This voice was simply the sound of nature to Su Jia. He immediately turned around at lightning speed. When he saw the woman in front of him, he couldn't help but stare blankly. This person looked very similar to Chief Su. She wouldn't be his long-lost younger sister, right? Luo Chu-Chu. Su Wan also saw Luo Chu-Chu's figure at this time. She immediately smiled and greeted, what a coincidence. We meet again. Yes ah. Luo Chu-Chu looked at Su Wan and then looked at Su Jia at the side. Are you accompanying a friend to buy something? Hearing Luo Chu-Chu's question, Su Wan hesitated for a moment. Su Jia at the side immediately considerately explained, I'm just Chief Su's assistant. I'm accompanying her to buy a tie for her boyfriend. Sure enough, with this kind of considerate assistant by her side, life was really too beautiful. Young Miss Su, you have a boyfriend? Hearing Su Jia's words, Luo Chu-Chu immediately widened her eyes and asked incredulously. Her voice was somewhat agitated. Because her voice was too loud, it also attracted the gazes of several other female shop assistants in the store. Seeing that everyone was looking at her, Luo Chu-Chu felt a little embarrassed. She subconsciously lowered her head and habitually tugged at the corner of her clothes. Actually, he's not my boyfriend. Su Wan didn't seem to see Luo Chu-Chu's predicament. She slightly lowered her eyes and the expression on her face softened a bit. I like him very much, but I don't know if he likes me or not. Speaking till here, Su Wan's tone also carried a trace of joy. Yes, is that so? Hearing Su Wan's words, Luo Chu-Chu's expression darkened. That person is really blessed. Do I know him? Seeing Luo Chu-Chu's hesitant and hemming and hawing appearance, Su Wan knew that this sensitive little girl had already thought of something. Su Wan didn't expose her and only mysteriously smiled at Luo Chu-Chu. You know that person, but I can't tell you right now. In the future, he will be the spokesperson of our company's products. You will soon know who he is. Today, I came over to help him choose a suitable tie. It will be used on the day of the photo. As she spoke, Su Wan no longer looked at Luo Chu-Chu. Instead, she called the shop assistant and asked her to take out all the latest styles of ties. In fact, if Su Wan wanted to buy her own company's ties, she didn't need to personally come to the mall. Moreover, a large portion of their EVFA's latest products in the current season haven't been released yet. The reason why she specially came here today was because Su Wan accidentally saw the calendar and knew that she would meet Luo Chu-Chu here today. Today was the 2-year anniversary of Luo Chu-Chu and Xiao Jingmo's acquaintance. Luo Chu-Chu took the money she saved for a few months and prepared to buy a tie for Xiao Jingmo at EVFA. Since she thought of this matter, Su Wan felt that she should do something along the way to strive to complete this world's task as soon as possible. Sure enough, after hearing Su Wan's words, Luo Chu-Chu no longer had the desire to buy a tie. She absent-mindedly left alone. Seeing that Luo Chu-Chu left, Su Wan casually picked up the 2 latest ties on the display rack and casually compared them in front of Su Jia. These 2 then. Su Jia, not so casual, is it really okay? The 2 ties were separately placed in 2 exquisitely crafted boxes. After Su Wan returned to her office, she casually tore 2 pages of post-it paper and wrote 2 sentences separately. She also placed the post-it paper into the tie box. After doing all this, Su Wan raised her head and beamed at Su Jia, who had been standing in front of her table. "Here, I'll give you 2 tasks." Su Wan pushed the 2 boxes in front of Su Jia. "Send the blue gold-rimmed box to Haoyue Group. You must personally hand it over to Chief Shao before you get off work today. Send the purple gold-rimmed box to Mega Financial Group. Hand it over to Fang Zimu." "Got it." Su Jia took the 2 gift boxes and nodded with a serious face. Today, young Master Fang signed the endorsement contract with the company. This matter was temporarily confidential, but the contract was handled by Su Jia. He understood this matter better than anyone else. So, in the mall today, Su Jia already knew that the person Su Wan liked was young Master Fang. Thinking about Qin Wei's injury again, Su Jia felt that the day of his boss becoming Fang family's eldest young mistress was not far. However, what kind of personal relationship did Haoyue Group's Chief Shao and Chief Su have? Su Jia was a bit puzzled by Su Wan's instructions, but this wasn't something that a small assistant like him should worry about. Su Jia held a serious attitude and drove to Haoyue Group in the first instance. Because they had a good cooperative relationship, he smoothly met Xiao Jingmo. He also personally handed over Su Wan's gift. "This is Chief Su's gift to you. He told me to personally hand it over to you." Hearing Su Jia's words, Xiao Jingmo was absent-minded for a moment. And Su Jia, who had already finished handling the matter, respectfully withdrew when Xiao Jingmo was in a daze. It must be known that Fang Zimu's company was in another district of Xiang City. It would take a lot of time to drive there. Su Jia didn't want to follow Qin Wei's old path. Once he thought of that young Master Fang's usual domineering manner in the mall, then he thought of him using a deadly hand on Qin Wei. Su Jia practically didn't dare to stop for even a moment. He hurriedly walked out of Haoyue Group's building. Because his mind was absent-minded and he was in too much of a hurry, Su Jia didn't realize that he had unexpectedly brushed shoulders with Luo Chu-Chu, whom he had just met at noon, at the entrance of Haoyue Group. 3,000 words with additional chapters, celebrating the collection breaking 500. Don't know when it will break 1,000. When the time comes, I'll add 2 chapters. At the same time, I wish everyone a happy National Day. In addition, I'll tell everyone a good news. Because the author, June, has a terrible name, in the end, the editor was especially helpless and allowed me to use the original name, choosing and choosing, only this name was still worth looking at. Chapter 50. Luo Chu-Chu always clearly remembered the day she and Xiao Jingmo met. 2 years ago, the 2 people accidentally met in the bar where she worked. This encounter changed her life. In recent days, the relationship between Luo Chu-Chu and Xiao Jingmo was somewhat cold. In fact, both of them knew that the problem between the 2 of them was not only Su Wan. On the day of the birthday banquet, the moment he saw Su Wan, Xiao Jingmo let go of Luo Chu-Chu's hand. Whether he did it intentionally or unintentionally, this action really hurt Luo Chu-Chu's heart. That day, she was alone in the villa's guest room and couldn't sleep. She thought that they were going to end like this, but the next day, everything was still the same. Xiao Jingmo didn't lay all his cards on the table and break up with her. Even last night, he even bought a large bouquet of roses and hugged her tenderly all night. Perhaps, in the 2 years that they got along, they still had true feelings. Luo Chu-Chu actually couldn't deceive herself. She simply didn't want to let go. In her life, there was never a man who doted on her and loved her like Xiao Jingmo. What's more, before she met Xiao Jingmo, she was just an ordinary and simple girl. Every girl dreams of one day meeting an overbearing CEO like Xiao Jingmo. He will unconditionally dote on you. He will give you the best in the world. No matter how cold and overbearing he is in front of others, he will always be gentle and considerate in front of you. This kind of dream lover, Luo Chu really only dared to think about it in her heart. When she really met him one day, how could she be willing to let go? She was not willing. It should be said that any normal woman wouldn't be willing. So, Luo Chu encouraged herself in her heart. Love is equal. She also has the right to fight for her own happiness, right? Even if she was originally just a substitute for Su Wan, but she also had the right and qualifications to receive love. Luo Chu summoned up her courage and wanted to give Xiao Jingmo a surprise on the anniversary of their meeting. But what Luo Chu didn't expect was that she would meet Su Wan again. Could Su Wan's so-called person she likes be Xiao Jingmo? Did she deliberately say that in front of her? After leaving the mall, Luo Chu's heart was in chaos again. Women's emotions were different from men. They were creatures that were easily disturbed and especially prone to flights of fancy. Thinking like this, Luo Chu already involuntarily walked to the bottom of Haoyue Group's building. Looking up at the tall office building in front of her, Luo Chu stared blankly. The afternoon sun was particularly dazzling. She narrowed her eyes and retracted her gaze. As a result, she just happened to see Su Jie's figure hurriedly leaving. Isn't that Su Wan's assistant? How could he? Luo Chu's heart began to feel nervous and worried again. She clenched her teeth and simply entered Haoyue Group's building. Because Xiao Jingmo had brought Luo Chu to the company several times before, Haoyue's employees recognized Luo Chu. The front desk called the internal line to the top floor of the CEO's secretariat. When Luo Chu took the elevator to the top floor, Xiao Jingmo's secretary was already waiting at the elevator entrance. Ms. Luo, President Xiao is waiting for you in the office. I understand. Luo Chu politely smiled at Xiao Jingmo's secretary and walked to the door of his office. Her fingers touched the ice-cold door. She hesitated for a moment, but in the end, she still pushed the door and entered. Xiao Jingmo was sitting behind his desk. He was wearing a white shirt with 2 loose buttons on his collar. It looked like he had just finished his lunch break. You came. Regarding Luo Chu's sudden arrival, Xiao Jingmo was still quite happy. Because normally, Luo Chu very rarely took the initiative to see him. In this relationship, he had always been constantly giving, and Luo Chu didn't accept it from the beginning. Now, she took it as a matter of course. After a long time, Xiao Jingmo almost forgot when was the last time she took the initiative to see him. Luo Chu, who walked into the room, nodded at Xiao Jingmo. Almost at a glance, she saw the gift box that had just been opened on his desk. Inside was a brand new silk tie. Su Wan gave it to you. Luo Chu's voice couldn't help but tremble. Xiao Jingmo stared blankly and realized that Luo Chu was talking about that tie. He lightly nodded. It was sent by Su Wan. It's her company's latest style. Speaking till here, Xiao Jingmo's line of sight also fell on the gift box. The silver-gray silk tie was embroidered with gorgeous and low-key dark gold stripes. It was the style he liked. Speaking of which, Su Wan's taste and vision had always been good. Otherwise, she wouldn't have reached the position of EVFA's Huaxia region's general manager. Luo Chu had already arrived in front of Xiao Jingmo at this time. She lowered her head and looked at the gift box on the table. Next to the tie, there was a note casually placed, yesterday's dinner gift. I think it's very suitable for you. It was a very simple sentence and there was even a mischievous smiley face drawn at the back. Obviously, there weren't any touching words of love written and there weren't any overly ambiguous words, but Luo Chu felt that the note was exceptionally dazzling. Originally, last night, Xiao Jing Imo came home so late because he ate dinner with Su Wan. So, he felt guilty and bought a large bouquet of roses for her. How could he be like this? After eating a meal with his first love behind her back, he could still be so intimate with her for a night as if there was no one else present. Could it be that all men were able to clearly separate lust and love like this? The tie is very beautiful. Saying one thing but meaning another was a top-notch skill that every woman was born with. Hearing Luo Chu's words, Xiao Jing Imo also smiled. It's not bad. Su Wan has always had good taste. She has very good taste. Luo Chu's complexion paled and her hands clenched. I heard that she also looked for you to be their brand spokesperson. Hearing this sentence, Xiao Jing Imo was obviously stunned for a moment. He looked at Luo Chu with some astonishment. Chu, how did you know? Xiao Jing Imo was indeed somewhat surprised because he had already rejected Su Wan yesterday. According to Su Wan's character, it was impossible for her to publicize this matter everywhere. So, it was all true. Luo Chu didn't answer Xiao Jing Mo's words. She resisted the sourness in her heart and turned her face to the side. She asked in a low voice, Xiao Jing Mo, you still love Su Wan? Love? The once unwillingness and anger, as well as the throbbing and loss of meeting again. After eating dinner with Su Wan, Xiao Jing Mo felt that it was time for him to let go of his attachment to the past. That attachment was not love. Perhaps, he really wholeheartedly loved that once beautiful, kind, lively and cheerful girl. However, the moment that girl left him without a care, he already didn't want to continue loving. These years of obsession, it was all because of a man's self-esteem and unwillingness. He hoped that one day, she would turn back. She would cry bitterly in front of him and tell him that she had eyes but couldn't see. But just yesterday, when he heard Su Wan's gentle tone talking about the past, when he heard her say to him that she wanted him to cherish his current girlfriend, at that moment, Xiao Jing Mo felt that he was quite ridiculous. These years, Su Wan had already let go. Although she had let him down in the beginning, in fact, the two of them had left each other's truest and most beautiful memories. So, if you missed it, you have to learn to let it go. Xiao Jing Mo felt that he had figured it out overnight. Last night, he even specially bought a large bouquet of roses for Luo Chu. Everything was originally good, but now that Xiao Jing Mo keenly felt Luo Chu's abnormality, so when he heard Luo Chu's question, he subconsciously muttered to himself. Seeing Xiao Jing Mo's silence, Luo Chu smiled with a deathly pale face. Xiao Jing Mo, if you don't speak, does that mean you agree? You still love her, don't you? It just so happens that she still loves you. You two are a talented man and a beautiful woman, childhood sweethearts. I have always been a superfluous person. Since it's like this, let's break up. You two can be a pair. I also don't need to be someone else's substitute. Enough. Xiao Jing Mo coldly interrupted Luo Chu's words. What nonsense are you talking about? Su Wan and I have already passed. She knows that I have a girlfriend and she has already let go of it. It's impossible for me and her. Impossible. Luo Chu sneered at Xiao Jing Mo. Then what's the matter with this tie? Su Wan personally told me in the mall that she wanted to give this tie to her beloved man. She also said that she invited that person to be their brand spokesperson. How is this possible? Xiao Jing Mo looked at Luo Chu in disbelief. Words of denial had already blurted out. From the beginning, he felt that Luo Chu was being unreasonable, and now her remarks were even more nonsense. You don't believe me. Don't tell me that I would lie to you about this kind of thing. Luo Chu felt that she was being doubted by Xiao Jingmo. Perhaps, he had never believed in her. Xiao Jingmo, let's break up. These 6 words seemed to have exhausted all of Luo Chu's strength. Chu. Xiao Jingmo, who returned to his senses, firmly grabbed Luo Chu's hand. Let go. Now that things have come to this, what else do we have to say? The two people's 4 eyes met. Luo Chu's gaze was filled with heartbreak, and Xiao Jingmo's gaze flashed. I'll call Su Wan and ask clearly. As he spoke, he already took out his cell phone and dialed Su Wan's private number. The phone was quickly picked up and Su Wan's slightly tired voice was transmitted. Jingmo, is there something? Su Wan, I have something to ask you. Today. Jingmo, wait a moment. I'm very busy right now. If you have something urgent, wait for me at the main entrance of my company after work. That's it, aw. I'm sorry. Chapter 51. After Su Wan hung up the phone, Xiao Jingmo put down his phone and looked at Luo Chu beside him. I'll take you there after work. Luo Chu didn't expect Xiao Jingmo to say that. She hesitated and finally nodded. In fact, both of them clearly knew that if they couldn't solve Su Wan's problem once and for all, then they would never be able to return to the beginning. When the seed of doubt was planted, unless it could be ruthlessly uprooted, it would continue to exist and grow wildly until it couldn't be controlled. At this time, Su Wan hung up Xiao Jingmo's phone call, but her mood was very relaxed. It was said that a lover that can be snatched away is not a lover. Towards Luo Chu, Su Wan didn't have any malice. She just didn't believe in a man like Xiao Jingmo. The so-called rich and powerful Cinderella stories were used to deceive inexperienced little girls. Even if the end of all the stories was a happy ending where Cinderella could marry the CEO, but what about after marriage? Men were the most untrustworthy creatures in this world. If Xiao Jingmo really loved Luo Chu, loved her till death, loved her to the point of moving heaven and earth, even if this mission failed in the end, Su Wan would still accept it. Unfortunately, she had experienced so many worlds and had never failed. Those men were undoubtedly not fickle people. No one could be an exception. An hour later, as expected, Su Wan received Su Rui's call again. I like the tie you gave me very much. I'll pick you up for dinner tonight. Su Rui had always been straightforward. Su Wan also liked to deal with this kind of person. Hearing Su Rui's words, Su Wan didn't refuse. Instead, before hanging up the phone, she reminded him to come to the company's entrance early to pick her up. Seeing that her self-directed and self-acted first big play was about to open, Su Wan finished the work at hand early in a good mood. She rested in the office for a while. Before getting off work, she also deliberately touched up her makeup in her private bathroom. On weekdays, when Su Wan got off work, she left very late. Today was no exception. She stood at the window and watched Su Rui's car stop at the company's entrance. Su Rui didn't call her, but rather coquettishly leaned against the car, attracting the onlookers from the company. Regarding the gazes of outsiders, Su Rui had always been automatically immune. Today, Su Rui specially changed into his favorite handmade gray suit. The gorgeous material and exquisite tailoring made people feel a kind of luxurious nobility from afar. As expected, he was as high profile as ever. No, it should be said that Su Rui never knew what low-key was. Su Wan unhurriedly took the elevator downstairs. When she walked to the hall, she saw Xiao Jingmo's car slowly driving over. The timing was just right. Su Wan, who was wearing a sapphire business attire, had a head full of long hair. She held a delicate white handbag and elegantly walked out of the company's door. Sorry to keep you waiting. Su Wan smiled apologetically at Su Rui. Su Rui didn't say anything and directly raised his hand to hand the dark red silk tie that he had been hanging on the crook of his arm. "Help me tie it." This was the tie that Su Wan had given him. It was a perfect match with his gray suit. Su Wan took the tie and her slender fingers lightly swept over it. That action was indescribably sexy and alluring. Su Rui's breath sank and he subconsciously leaned over, leaning in front of Su Wan. "Hurry. Are you in such a hurry to get me to trap you?" It was said that when a woman personally ties a tie for a man, she can trap him for a lifetime. Su Wan's peach blossom eyes flashed a trace of a smile. The moment Su Rui lowered his head, she raised her arms and put the tie around Su Rui's neck. The two people were very close at this time, almost touching each other's foreheads. Between their breaths, Su Wan noticed that Su Rui's neck was red. That when Xiao Jingmo and Luo Chu drove the car downstairs to Su Wan's company, they saw such a scene. Fang Zimu lowered his head and stood in front of Su Wan. Su Wan raised her hand and very intimately and naturally tied his tie. The two people's gazes intersected from time to time and then casually staggered. The surrounding air seemed to be isolated. The two people standing there looked particularly harmonious and beautiful. It was as if they were born to be together. Between the two of them, no other people could be tolerated. "All right." After tying the tie beautifully, Su Wan raised her finger in satisfaction and slid it on Su Rui's tie. As a result, she hadn't retracted her hand when Su Rui suddenly grabbed her finger. Holding her slender and fair fingers and feeling the temperature of Su Wan's fingertips, Su Rui inexplicably brought Su Wan's finger to his lips and lightly kissed it. At the end of the kiss, the two people froze in place. Her fingertips still carried a temperature and breath that made people tremble. Su Wan reflexively wanted to pull her hand out, but Su Rui subconsciously held it tighter. "Su Wan, Su Wan." Xiao Jingmo's voice suddenly came from behind and interrupted Su Rui's words. Su Rui's gaze darkened. When he turned around, his handsome face was already full of haze. "Jingmo, you came." Su Wan saw Xiao Jingmo get out of the car with a cold face. Following him was Luo Chu, who had a complicated and shocked expression. "Su Wan, you guys." Luo Chu's gaze still fell on Su Wan's hand that was holding Su Wan's. He never let go, as if he wanted to declare his sovereignty. "I've been seen by you guys." Su Rui smiled and his other hand smoothly climbed onto Su Rui's arm. "Su Rui signed a contract with our company. He is our latest spokesperson, and at the same time, my new boyfriend." That new word was particularly ear-piercing at this moment. Luo Chu was somewhat ashamed. It turned out that she had misunderstood Su Wan all along. Not long ago, she actually thought that he deliberately wanted to separate her and Xiao Jingmo. Thinking of this, Luo Chu felt more and more embarrassed. On the other hand, Xiao Jingmo, who was at the side, stared blankly at Su Wan and Su Rui's tightly held hands. Regarding what once belonged to him, but now it had become someone else's, any man would feel a little uncomfortable. Moreover, not long ago, on the way here, Xiao Jingmo even suspected in his heart whether Su Wan still had feelings for him. As a result, now clearly, it was his own wishful thinking. This made Xiao Jingmo's mood not high. Glancing at Su Rui's somewhat provocative gaze, Xiao Jingmo said without thinking, "I didn't expect young Master Fang to actually be interested in shooting an advertisement. If I knew it would be like this, I would have also joined in the fun. When Su Wan looked for me in the beginning, I wouldn't have refused her." Xiao Jingmo's words were already very straightforward. He was undoubtedly telling Su Rui that what he obtained was nothing more than something that he no longer wanted. Chapter 52. Ever since he returned to the Xiao family, Xiao Jingmo had transformed from an ordinary youth into an elegant young master under Xiao Lei Yizi's tutelage in just a year. These past few years, he had become accustomed to wearing a noble mask and being a refined and elegant person. Today, the ridicule towards Su Rui was nothing more than a momentary dispute due to Xiao Jingmo's personal feelings. As soon as the words left his mouth, Xiao Jingmo regretted it a little. He and Su Rui had already broken up 8 years ago. Now that he already has Luo Chu Chu, why bother about who Su Rui wants to be with now? What's wrong with me? Su Rui on the side actually understood Xiao Jingmo's words, but he didn't seem angry. Instead, he raised his hand and held Su Rui tightly in his embrace. In that case, I really have to thank Chief Xiao for giving me the position of spokesperson. Otherwise, I don't know when I would be able to hold the beauty back. Su Rui said it with sincerity, as if he was really especially grateful to Xiao Jingmo. Seeing him acting like this, Xiao Jingmo felt even more irritated. He casually said a few words and drove away with Luo Chu Chu. Until their car completely disappeared, Su Rui put away the smile on his lips and looked at Su Rui beside him with an indifferent face. You used me again? Did I? If you don't want to be my boyfriend, you can. Woo! Su Rui's words were only halfway through when Su Rui suddenly leaned over and fiercely kissed her lips. Different from the previous accidental kiss, this time, Su Rui kissed her very hard. His kissing skills were unsystematic and clumsy, leaving bloodstains on Su Rui's lips. This was absolutely not a public display of affection. This was definitely murder. Enough. Su Rui pushed Su Rui away with force. Her slender fingers wiped the blood on her lips. Right now, her face was even more hazy than Su Rui's. Su Rui, don't push your luck. Otherwise, I won't let you off. Su Rui licked the corner of his lips and his gaze landed on Su Rui's lips. No matter what you do to me, I will accompany you at any time. Then let's wait and see. Su Rui glanced at Su Rui, turned around and indifferently walked away. Looking at her back view, Su Rui raised his finger and gently touched his lips. There were still remnants of her breath on it, and even her blood. Su Wan, you're definitely not as hard and cold as you pretend to be. I will make you obediently lay down your arms and surrender. I definitely will. In the evening, the streets were filled with hurried pedestrians. At this time, they were either anxiously walking home or stopping at a certain intersection, waiting for the person they were waiting for. Only when one's heart was filled with expectations and a place to return to would one feel happy and warm. Su Wan stopped at the intersection of a busy street. She watched the signal light at the intersection change from red to yellow and then gradually turn green. She watched the crowd hurriedly pass by the zebra crossing. Everything in front of him was so real yet so illusory. Everything was fake. As long as she closed her eyes, Su Wan seemed to see the place where she grew up turning into ashes in a sea of fire. This world is about to collapse. Come with me. The man's voice was always so gentle, and the gentleness made her desperate and irritable. It was better to die in despair than to live like this. Su Wan thought of death and she also put it into action. Unfortunately, in the end, she was still alive. A person living in sorrow and despair. Those that she loved, those that she missed, were all like a joke in an old dream. That's right, how ridiculous. When she thought she was the happiest person in the world, someone suddenly told her that everything was a lie. She was just a cannon fodder chess piece in someone else's hands. Her existence was just to let the protagonists who were favored by the heavens live a happy life. Su Wan fell on the street somewhat powerlessly. Everything in front of her gradually blurred. The thing she disliked the most was to recall the past. Other people's memories at least had a short period of sweetness and sincerity. But what about her memories? In addition to the mutual deception of the family, there was also the heartless use and betrayal of the lover. She was a person who was not loved by fate because she was born to be cannon fodder in other people's lives. Soo-won, your feelings, I actually empathize more than you. Soo-won sat on the street and silently smiled. She actually understood the reason why Soo-rui chased after her. In the end, he felt unreconciled. Just like everything she had done all these years. She was also unreconciled. She desperately hoped that other people would not be happy, and every time, she also hoped that someone could redeem her in this abyss of despair. Unfortunately, after reincarnating from one world to another, she became more and more disappointed and indifferent. After reincarnating until now, her heart still did not have a place to rest. Chapter 53. Mega's president, Fong Zimu, actually signed a contract to be the spokesperson for EVFA's new fall product. Once this news came out, it immediately shook Xiong City's shopping malls and upper-class circles. Very quickly, well-informed media dug out the photos of Xiao Jingmo's birthday banquet that someone had secretly taken. That photo was precisely taken when Soo-won and Soo-rui were dancing. Very quickly, the news regarding young Master Fong and EVFA's general manager Soo-won's relationship spread throughout the entire Xiong City. At this time, Soo-rui had already helped Soo-won take hard photos of the latest quarter's products in accordance with the contract. Because Soo-rui's current body foundation was particularly good, the samples taken were also particularly outstanding. Soo-won sent the samples to the overseas headquarters and received a positive reply and praise from the headquarters on the same day. Very soon, Xiong City's EVFA counters were replaced with the latest images of the spokesperson. Fong Zimu still had considerable appeal in Xiong City. On the day when the new billboards were replaced, the new products at the counters were almost all snapped up. With such popularity, EVFA's new season's product launch was also particularly eye-catching. It was unprecedentedly grand, and the effect was extraordinary. This was Soo-won's first shot after taking office. Because the completion was too perfect, after the press conference ended, Soo-won booked a hotel and took all the staff to celebrate. Of course, Soo-rui, the brand spokesperson, also participated in this celebration. The two people rarely came in contact recently. Soo-won was always cold and sarcastic. Soo-rui also didn't seem to want to continue asking for a snub. At the celebration banquet, everyone was in high spirits. By the end of the banquet, most of them were drunk. Perhaps it was because he drank too much wine. Soo-rui's gaze was somewhat blurred. He saw that Soo-won didn't drink many cups of wine the whole night, always indifferently drifting away from the crowd. Other people hindered her position and no one dared to go up and urge her to drink, but Soo-rui didn't care so much. He directly took a bottle of wine and sat beside Soo-won, his drunken gaze tightly staring at Soo-won's face. I helped you so much, you have to drink with me. We are just mutually beneficial. Soo-won raised her hand and pushed away the wine bottle that Soo-rui placed in front of her. Mutual benefit. Why don't I feel like I'm taking advantage of you? Soo-rui smiled with some dissatisfaction and stubbornly pushed the bottle back. Isn't your family planning to enter the department store industry? Soo-won leaned sideways and propped up her cheek with one hand. She raised the corner of her eye and looked at Soo-rui. What if I can convince headquarters to cancel the contract with Haoyue Group and instead cooperate with your mega? Fong family started off by relying on financial investments. Their original wealth was accumulated very quickly, but this kind of development was not a long-term plan in today's rapidly developing economy. In contrast, Xiao family had been steadily and surely building up. They started off by relying on the supermarket chain and department store industry. Although Xiao family's Haoyue Group had already begun to involve various industries, including the most violent real estate industry, but in fact, the department store industry was still Xiao family's foundation. The huge profits of the real estate market would not last long, especially after the country issued a restriction order. The whole market had begun to decline. On the contrary, as young people gradually entered society, they became the most mainstream consumer group, and these high-consumption groups would soon drive the booming development of the department store industry, especially after the combination of e-commerce and counter stores. It was even more popular and sought after by young people. In fact, Fong family also saw the development advantage in this area and was planning to establish the first department store in Xi'an City that was connected to the national network. EVFA, as a European luxury fashion brand, had a great appeal in the fashion industry. At this time, if EVFA abandoned Xiao family and turned to cooperate with Fong family, it would affect the choices of many other brands. This was simply a gargantuan benefit for Fong family. Sure enough, hearing Su Wan's words, Su Rui's drunkenness disappeared in an instant. He stared fixedly at Su Wan. Are you serious? Of course it's true. The people at headquarters appreciate you very much. If cooperating with you can let us obtain more benefits, why would they object? Businessmen, pursuing profit was the biggest premise. In the business world, there would not be eternal friends and enemies. Your contract with Hao Yue seems to still have half a year. Su Rui used his finger to tap on the table. There might be other changes in this half a year. Although he didn't know the specifics of their cooperation, Su Rui could imagine that the liquidated damages in the contract would absolutely be an astronomical figure. You should know that I can't wait that long. Hearing Su Rui's words, Su Wan just mysteriously smiled at him. I have a way to make Xiao Jing and Mo take the initiative to terminate the contract. Su Wan always liked to do things step by step. Calculating the time, she felt that Xiao Jing and Mo should have already investigated some things at this time. The next time they meet, she really didn't know what kind of scene it would be. Seeing Su Wan's confident appearance, Su Rui only felt somewhat stuffy in his chest. Yes, she always had this kind of method, otherwise, she wouldn't have played so many people in circles. Regarding Su Wan's acting skills and scheming, Su Rui had the deepest understanding. Sullenly pouring himself another cup of wine, Su Rui drank the full cup of white wine in one gulp without saying a word. After the celebration banquet ended, apart from Su Wan, among the large group of people, only Su Jia was still barely able to maintain his sobriety. Chief Su, I'll send them to the car one by one. You take good care of young Master Fong. Su Jia felt that he really was the most considerate assistant in the world. Seeing Su Jia supporting his drunk colleagues and sending them to the taxi one by one, Su Wan turned around and looked at Su Rui, who was lying on his Maserati without a care for his image. After looking for a long time, Su Wan finally shook her head. She walked to Su Rui's side and put her hand into his pocket to take out Su Rui's cell phone. What's the password? Su Wan stared at the screen of the cell phone while raising her hand and lightly patting Su Rui's cheek. Password. Su Rui raised his eyes in a daze and looked at Su Wan absent-mindedly. Then he somewhat dazedly smiled. Password is 0607. Chapter 54. When Fong Ziwen drove to the vicinity of the hotel, she saw her family's eldest brother holding Su Wan with one hand from a distance. She didn't know what he was gesturing, but Su Wan's expression looked somewhat impatient. Thinking of the things written in the newspapers and on the internet about Su Wan and her big brother, Fong Ziwen also hesitated for a moment. Finally, she drove the car to the entrance of the hotel. When he alighted from the car, a gust of cold wind blew against his face. Fong Ziwen was still wearing a short skirt that didn't reach her knees. Fortunately, she was already used to dressing like this and didn't feel particularly cold. Your brother is drunk. Take him home. When Su Wan saw Fong Ziwen appear, she immediately struggled out of Su Rui's embrace and pushed his swaying body, pushing him in front of Fong Ziwen. This feeling of going back to their own homes and finding their own mothers at any time made Su Rui somewhat flustered. Su Wan, Xiao Wan, he hurriedly raised his hand and grabbed in the air, but in the end, he only caught Su Wan's warm fingertips. "You're drunk, go back and have a good rest." Su Wan forcefully pulled out her hand and then politely smiled at Fong Ziwen. "When you go back, don't forget to prepare a hangover soup for him." "I'm leaving now." "Huh?" Fong Ziwen stared blankly. Before she could say a word, she watched helplessly as Su Wan turned around and got into her car. In a flash, she had already driven away. What was going on? Fong Ziwen gloomily turned her head to look at her brother, who was swaying left and right. She somewhat hatefully said, "You're usually as shrewd as a fox. It was such a good opportunity, but you actually made yourself so drunk. If you have the ability, then make her drunk too. Where did your usual arrogance go?" As she spoke, Fong Ziwen gloomily raised her hand and wanted to help Su Rui to her car. Who knew that as soon as she approached, Su Rui would suddenly open her hand. Tidying up his messy coat, Su Rui narrowed his eyes and looked dangerously at Fong Zi. "What did you just say? Come, say it again." "Ah." Fong Ziwen's complexion changed. "Brother, so you're not drunk?" It was all an act. As expected of a cunning fox. Fong Ziwen thought about it. She felt that she was the most hindrance. "Brother, I was wrong. How about I chase Su Wan back?" Fong Ziwen put on a pitiful expression and cautiously looked at Su Rui. "Forget it, get in the car." Su Rui waved his hand and took the lead to get on Fong Ziwen's car. He directly sat in the back seat. Fong Ziwen trembled. Seeing that her elder brother didn't flip out, she immediately got in the car and started the engine. The car drove all the way to Fong family's villa. Because Su Rui was in the car, Fong Ziwen didn't dare to drive too fast. Su Rui, who had a gloomy face, made several phone calls in a row after getting in the car. Fong Ziwen didn't understand much about doing business, but she heard Su Rui instructing people to release the rumor that EVFA wanted to terminate the contract with Haoyue. She also heard him telling people to take advantage of tomorrow's stock price drop to take the opportunity to absorb Haoyue's shares. Fong Ziwen's hand that had been steadily driving slightly trembled. Although she was somewhat afraid of her elder brother, thinking of her fiancé, Fong Ziwen still gathered her courage and asked in a low voice, "Big brother, are you planning to make a move against Haoyue?" "Make a move against Haoyue?" Su Rui lazily raised his eyes and indifferently glanced at Fong Ziwen. This spoiled rich young lady still didn't seem to know that the reason why she was able to become Xiao Jingmo's fiancé was all because of Xiao Leiyizi's plot against Fong family. Fong family had been at the top of Xiang City for far too long. If Xiao family wanted to replace them, it wouldn't be a matter of 1 or 2 days. Moreover, many people in the business world knew that as Xiao family continued to rise, Fong family was also gradually declining. Fong family would be replaced by Xiao family or even be annexed. It was only a matter of time. When Su Rui accepted Fong Zimu's body, he also received the original owner's memory. Fong Zimu was also considered a business genius, but compared to Xiao family, he was still a step behind. Xiao Leiyizi was old. He put all his hopes on Xiao Jingmo's performance in these past few years finally didn't disappoint his expectations. The only thing that made Xiao Leiyizi dissatisfied was Xiao Jingmo's attitude towards relationships. As a result, Xiao Leiyizi personally appointed the marriage with Fong family. Fong family's head was also muddle-headed and actually thought that this was a good thing. However, Fong Zimu understood. How could his younger sister enter Xiao Jingmo's eyes? Fong Zimu, who was familiar with Fong Ziwen's character, knew that Fong Ziwen would sooner or later provoke Xiao Jingmo. Once Xiao Jingmo, that person, became ruthless, he would absolutely exterminate them. Therefore, Fong Zimu acted in advance before this. He secretly gathered funds while creating many situations where he encountered Luo Chu. Since Xiao Lei Yizi started with his younger sister, then he might as well start with the women around Xiao Jingmo. The original plot of this world was that Fong Zimu initially approached Luo Chu with the intention of using her to attack Xiao Jingmo. Who knew that after a long time, he actually pretended to really fall in love with Luo Chu. And at this time, Xiao Jingmo and Luo Chu broke up and reunited with Su Wan. Fong Zimu took advantage of this opportunity to accompany Luo Chu by her side, wanting to win her affection. Unfortunately, Fong Zimu always had a younger sister by his side who didn't let people feel at ease. She specialized in trapping her own people. Fong Ziwen was instigated by Ouyang Jing, who had always admired Fong Zimu. She actually hired a hitman to drive a car and hit Luo Chu. In the end, Luo Chu got into a car accident and entered the hospital. Because of this matter, Xiao Jingmo actually saw his own heart and finally successfully reunited with Luo Chu. Later, Xiao Jingmo found out that the real culprit behind the scenes was Fong Ziwen. He high-profile broke off the engagement with Fong family and crazily attacked Fong family's business in the market. Fong Zimu lost his beloved and his career wasn't smooth. He lost control and made the wrong decision. He tampered with Xiao Jingmo's car and the result was Su Wan's death. After straightening out some things in his mind, Su Rui thought for a bit and made another phone call. This phone call was to the private detective agency that he had been patronizing. What movements has Ouyang Jing made recently? Hearing Su Rui ask about Ouyang Jing's current situation, a low and deep male voice was immediately transmitted over the phone. Miss Ouyang is still recuperating in the private hospital recently. I asked the private nurse inside. She should be discharged this weekend. Ever since that night when she was thrown by Su Wan on the barren mountain cemetery, Ouyang Jing suffered a huge fright. She had been recuperating all this time, so she had been calm and tranquil these days. But once she was discharged from the hospital, she would definitely come out to die again. In fact, Su Rui was already secretly planning to overthrow Ouyang family. However, because this matter had to be carried out in a particularly secretive manner, the speed was a bit slower. After she is discharged from the hospital, you have to closely watch her for 24 hours. Once she has any abnormal behavior, you have to immediately report to me. After he finished instructing the private detective, Su Rui put away his phone. When he raised his head, he saw Fong Ziwen sneakily using the rearview mirror to look at him. Su Rui sighed. His body stretched out and comfortably leaned on the back seat. Then, he slowly closed his eyes. Seeing that Su Rui didn't want to say anything, Fong Ziwen curled her lips. Her face was unhappy. When she was about to continue to concentrate on driving, Su Rui, who was pretending to sleep with his eyes closed, suddenly opened his mouth without warning. Ouyang Jing isn't a good person. You usually stay away from her. If she bewitches you to do something, you must not be fooled. Got it, big brother. Chapter 55. When she received the call from the European headquarters, Su Wan was driving on the way to the company. May, for something like this to happen, you must give the company and the media a perfect answer. Otherwise, the board of directors will question your ability to work. May, all these years, in my eyes, you have always separated public and private affairs very clearly. Why are you so muddle-headed this time? On the phone, Ken, who had the characteristics of a chatterbox, kept chattering and Su Wan finally came back to her senses after listening for a long time. Taking advantage of the traffic jam, she took out her tablet to search for some news in Xiang City. Sure enough, the news that EVFA wanted to terminate the contract with Hao Yue and the photo of her and Su Rui hugging at the entrance of the hotel had already entered the hot search list. Ken, this is an accident. Give me 3 days, I will handle it well. If I can't handle it well, I will take the initiative to resign. Hearing Su Wan speak so seriously, Ken on the other side of the phone seemed to be stunned. May, with our friendship, I still believe you. You don't have to be too anxious. I will help you deal with the board of directors these few days. You settle the matter as soon as possible. Okay, I know what to do. Hanging up the international call from the headquarters, Su Wan somewhat irritably rubbed her eyebrows. Sure enough, Su Rui won't sit still and wait for death. Truly a troublesome guy. The phone rang impatiently again. Su Wan took a look and discovered that it was Su Jie's phone. Once the phone was connected, Su Jie's familiar voice transmitted from inside. In the past, he was dressed like an elite and was unusually calm and refined. Today, his tone was slightly urgent. Chief Su, have you seen the news? I know everything. Su Wan's tone was as dull as ever. The current news is very unfavorable to us. Su Jia, first inform the Public Relations Department to do a good job in crisis public relations. Don't worry about other things. Wait for me to go to the company and deal with it together. Okay, understood. Su Jia's phone call had not yet hung up when a new call came through. Su Wan simply turned off her phone and concentrated on driving while the traffic slowly moved. Early in the morning, the entire company was in chaos. When Su Wan drove to the entrance of the company, she saw familiar financial reporters already waiting outside the company. She simply drove the car in a circle and finally entered the office building from the back door. Seeing Su Wan appear, the company's cadres all gathered around. What are you all panicking for? Is there nothing to do? Disperse and do what you need to do. Come to the conference room at 9:00 sharp for the meeting. Coldly throwing down these words, Su Wan directly took the elevator back to her office. Su Jia had long been waiting at the door of her office. Seeing Su Wan's figure, Su Jia immediately handed over the script prepared by the PR department to Su Wan. Su Wan only roughly glanced at it twice and stuffed the script back into Su Jia's hands. For the time being, let's arrange it like this. Help me cancel all of my original appointments this morning, and then help me arrange a meeting with Hao Yue's elder Xiao. Old Xiao. Su Jia stared blankly for a moment because Elder Xiao hadn't asked about the company's matters for a long time. In the past 2 years, Hao Yue's big and small matters were all decided by Xiao Jingmo. Although it was a bit unexpected, Su Jia still earnestly nodded and carried out Su Wan's instructions one by one. This morning, Su Wan was particularly busy. After appeasing the media that rushed over after hearing the news, she began to appease the elites of various departments in the company. Finally, she was tired of dealing with the bombardment of phone calls from those partners. Until she met Xiao Leoi at the agreed tea house, Su Wan's face still carried an unconcealable look of exhaustion. Are you tired? Try the De Hong Pao here. Xiao Leoi was already over 70 years old this year, but his complexion was still ruddy and his hair was white like a crane. At this time, he was wearing a black silk tang suit, sitting upright on a yellow pearwood chair, looking particularly spirited. Su Wan smiled at Xiao Leoi and gracefully picked up the teacup and took a sip. The fragrance lingered between her teeth. It was indeed a rare and good tea. Although I don't know much about tea, it feels pretty good. Su Wan put down the teacup and smiled at Xiao Leoi. Xiao Leoi looked at Su Wan with some surprise. Just now, whether it was the action of holding the teacup or the posture of tasting the tea, she was particularly skilled and authentic. Originally, Xiao Leoi thought that Su Wan was deliberately showing off in front of him, but he didn't expect that she would bluntly say that she didn't understand tea at all. This girl, she had made a lot of progress in these few years abroad. Thinking like this, Xiao Leoi's gaze towards Su Wan also softened a bit. Su family's girl, you asked me out this time because of the matter reported in the morning news, right? My old bones have long since stopped paying attention to the company's matters. If you have anything, you should look for a MO and talk about it. Because the rumor that EVFA wanted to terminate the contract with Haoyue caused a ruckus, when the stock market opened this morning, Haoyue's stock plummeted. Although there was already a trend of recovery, it didn't rule out that someone would take the opportunity to maliciously buy Haoyue's shares. Regarding the black hand behind the scenes of this matter, Xiao Leoi had already found out. It was all the work of that little brat from Fong family. Regarding Xiao Jingmo, Su Wan, and Fong Zimu's current relationship, Xiao Leoi didn't care much. But Su Wan suddenly wanted to meet him, which made Xiao Leoi surprised. Because he had some doubts and curiosity in his heart, Xiao Leoi didn't hesitate to agree to Su Wan's invitation. Xiao Leoi, this junior asked you out today for a little private matter. The expression on Su Wan's face suddenly became somewhat complicated and lonely. That matter 8 years ago, I know. It was you who did it. And Xiao Leoi slightly raised his eyelids. A faint radiance flashed through his pair of seemingly muddy eyes. He calmly looked at Su Wan a few times. Seeing that Su Wan didn't continue, Xiao Leoi simply took a sip of tea and then unhurriedly put down the teacup and looked at Su Wan. Since you know, then this matter, you did it on purpose. Deliberately looking for Fong Zimu to cooperate and deliberately releasing unfavorable rumors against Haoyue. No. Su Wan smiled bitterly. If I wanted to retaliate, after returning to the country, I would go find Jing Mo and have a showdown. If he knew the truth of that year, what do you think he would do? Su Wan knew Xiao Jingmo's personality, and Xiao Leoi understood his grandson even more. That year, because he broke up an affectionate couple, he already lost his father. Xiao Jingmo's mother also died of depression because of this. If Xiao Jingmo now knew that the reason why Su Wan left him that year was also his doing, Xiao Leoi could be sure that he and this grandson that he found with great difficulty would absolutely fall out because of this. In the end, what do you want to do? Right now, Xiao Leoi's gaze that looked at Su Wan was already undisguised sharp. That year, Xiao Leoi saw that this girl was very smart and also came from a merchant family. This kind of granddaughter-in-law, Xiao Leoi didn't like it. He would rather let Xiao Jingmo and Luo Chu, that kind of silly girl, be together. He also didn't want Xiao family's business to fall into the hands of outsiders in the future. Leoi, you seem to hate me very much. Feeling Xiao Leiyi's gaze, Su Wan somewhat self-deprecatingly picked up the teacup again, her slender fingers gently rubbing the edge of the purple sand teacup. In fact, Jing Mo also noticed some things. These past few days, my friend abroad called me and said that someone was investigating me. I suspect that he sent that person. As she spoke, Su Wan raised her head again and looked at Xiao Leoi with clear eyes. When I came back this time, I saw that Jing Mo was very happy. I was very happy for him. The past matters are in the past. I don't want him to add to his troubles. I asked you to come out today just to inform you in advance. Once the matter of that year comes to light, please make preparations first. As for me, I will explain it clearly to Jing Mo. The matter of terminating the contract this time might be my last involvement with him. Perhaps it was because Su Wan's expression was too serious and her gaze wasn't mixed with a trace of impurity. Hearing her words, Xiao Leoi's heart actually slightly wavered. In fact, he also understood the Su family's life these past few years. Su Wan didn't lack pursuers abroad, but in these 8 years, she had always been clean and self-respecting. Perhaps she really had always been deeply in love with Xiao Jingmo. Xiao Leoi suddenly felt that he was really old. Regarding the matters of young people's love and affection, he really couldn't understand it. Leoi, I'll leave first. There are still a lot of things to do at the company. As she spoke, Su Wan already stood up and prepared to leave. Don't you resent me? When Su Wan got up, Xiao Leoi suddenly asked in a low voice. Su Wan's departing figure slightly paused for a moment. She turned sideways and faintly smiled at Xiao Leoi. You are Jing Mo's grandfather, how can I resent you? After all, everything you do is for his own good. I believe that even if he knows in the future, he will understand you. These words seemed to have finally reached the bottom of Xiao Leoi's heart. He lightly sighed and his gaze gradually softened as he looked at Su Wan. Su family's girl, do you still like Amo? I don't like him. Su Wan lightly turned her back to Xiao Leoi and replied in a complicated voice, he is the only man I have ever loved in this life. After speaking, Su Wan quickly left. Until Su Wan's figure disappeared at the entrance of the tea house, Xiao Leoi sighed and leaned on the chair, saying heavily, you heard everything? Behind the red sandalwood screen behind him, a tall and slender figure slowly walked out. This person was Xiao Jingmo. In fact, Xiao Jingmo already knew the truth from 8 years ago yesterday. Today, such a big matter happened in the company and he didn't care. He left behind a big pile of things and returned to the old residence to find his grandfather to confront. He didn't expect that the old man would suddenly receive an invitation from Su Wan. It was Xiao Leoi who brought Xiao Jingmo along. The old man originally wanted Xiao Jingmo to clearly see Su Wan's true face, but in the end, he saw a sadistic love affair. This could also be considered a freak accident. Su Wan originally wanted to brush up a favorable impression with Xiao Leoi. Who knew that there would be an unexpected harvest? This was truly called life is like a play, it all depends on acting skills. Chapter 56. Su Rui's way of doing things had indeed brought a lot of trouble to Su Wan. In fact, it wasn't that no one in the headquarters objected to her becoming the general manager of the Huaxia region. On the contrary, her competitors were very powerful. In the end, she only got this opportunity by relying on a slight advantage. And now, the rumors about her and Fang Zimu, as well as the news of her abandoning the public for personal reasons, forcibly terminating the contract with Haoyue spread, making those restless people in the headquarters start to make new moves. Su Wan, who left the tea house, didn't know that Xiao Jingmo was actually following her all the way. She didn't want to return to the company at this time. Parking the car in an open-air parking lot, Su Wan tightened the thin coat on her body and quietly strolled along the road. Xiao Jingmo drove the car far away and slowly followed behind Su Wan. At this time, his mood was also very restless. In his mind, the words that Su Wan and his grandfather said constantly lingered. It turned out that she had always loved him deeply. It turned out that she had never abandoned or betrayed him. On the other hand, it was because of him that his family was almost ruined and killed. Xiao Jingmo's heart was filled with guilt and vaguely throbbing and at a loss that he hadn't felt for a long time. Some feelings seemed to be unknowingly rekindling. Looking at Su Wan's lonely and desolate back through the car window, Xiao Jingmo's heart suddenly surged with a strong impulse. He really wanted to tightly hold her in his arms. He really wanted to properly hug her and look at her. He really wanted to personally ask her whether she was well or not. All these years. Unknowingly, Su Wan had already walked to the entrance of a park. Looking at the park in the original owner's memory and the slightly dilapidated park in front of her eyes overlapping, Su Wan just slightly shook her head. When the pressure was too great or too tired, she liked to stroll on the streets alone like this, relaxing her body and mind. Walking far enough, Soo-won simply turned around at the entrance of the park and walked back in the direction she came from. Right at this time, the roar of a car suddenly sounded behind Soo-won, especially ear-piercing. "Soo-won, be careful." Xiao Jing-mo, who was sitting in the car, watched with his own eyes as a small car accelerated and crazily crashed into Soo-won. At this time, Xiao Jing-mo panicked. He jumped out of the car at a loss and desperately ran towards Soo-won's direction. At this moment, he was frightened and blamed himself. He blamed himself for not having the courage to stand in front of Soo-won and only knew how to follow behind her from a distance. Just like now, he desperately wanted to protect her, but he could only run helplessly. Accidents often happened in a split second. When Soo-won came back to her senses, she discovered that she had been forcefully pushed to the other side of the road. The car that was obviously deliberately trying to murder her hit a tall figure until the figure was sent flying. The out-of-control car then hit a tree on the side of the road and finally stopped. On the smooth street, the color of blood spread. Soo-won widened her eyes and looked at the man lying in a pool of blood. Her breathing stopped for a moment. Fong Zimu. Seeing Xiao Jing-mo's panicked figure, Soo-won finally called out Fong Zimu's name. Bright red blood dyed Soo-rui's black windbreaker. He fell to the ground, his hair messy, but he still smiled at Soo-won. I'm fine. Yes, you'll be fine. Soo-won calmly took out her phone and dialed the police and emergency number. Her tone was as cold and calm as usual, but Soo-rui vaguely saw that Soo-won's hand holding the phone had been trembling uncontrollably. The ambulance came just in time. Soo-won and Xiao Jing-mo accompanied Soo-rui all the way to the nearest hospital, and the driver who caused the accident had already been taken away by the police for questioning. Sitting in the corridor of the hospital, Soo-won was still tightly holding the phone in her hand. Seeing that she was excessively silent, Xiao Jing-mo couldn't help but raise his hand and lightly pat Soo-won's shoulder. "You don't need to worry too much. He'll be fine." In fact, although Soo-rui lost a lot of blood, he didn't receive too serious an injury. With Soo-rui's skill, at the moment of the accident, he had the opportunity to avoid all the vital parts and minimize the extent of his injury. As for why he still left so much blood, cough cough, General Soo doesn't want to tell you. In fact, Soo-won was very clear that Soo-rui's life shouldn't be in any danger in this world, but she was still a bit uneasy. She hadn't experienced this kind of uneasy emotion for a long time. It wasn't until the doctor transferred Soo-rui to an ordinary private ward that Soo-won's heart was truly relieved. The ward was filled with the hospital's unique uncomfortable smell. Soo-rui sat on the hospital bed. His arm was in a cast and his left leg was also wrapped in layers of bandages. He looked particularly pitiful. "Let's eat." Soo-won took the insulated lunchbox and placed it on the cabinet at the side. As soon as the lid of the lunchbox was opened, a rich fragrance floated out from inside. "You're on a diet right now. Drink some soup first," Soo-won said while taking out the prepared small bowl and scooping spoonfuls of soup for Soo-rui. It was already the third day after the accident. Soo-rui didn't transfer to another hospital and also refused the senior nurse that his family hired for him. In Soo-rui's own words, he was injured because of Soo-won, so Soo-won had to take responsibility for him. Take full responsibility. Seeing that he was an injured person and also her savior, Soo-won could only reluctantly become Soo-rui's nurse. Because Soo-won was busy with work, she only took time to come over during lunch and dinner. Although the two people didn't spend much time together, Soo-rui seemed to be particularly satisfied with the feeling of being served by Soo-won. Seeing that Soo-won had scooped the soup, Soo-rui immediately cooperated and opened his mouth wide. It was good that his arm was injured. He could finally enjoy the days when he stretched out his hand and opened his mouth to eat. Moreover, drinking the soup that Su Wan personally fed him, the taste was not ordinary. Of course, if this soup was not bought but cooked by Su Wan herself, that would be the best. After drinking the soup, Su Rui still wished to continue. He tilted his head and attentively watched Su Wan's busy appearance in the ward. For a moment, he felt particularly satisfied, so General Su couldn't help but want to take a mile after taking an inch. Su Wan, I haven't bathed for a few days. I feel uncomfortable all over. Su Wan, who had her back facing Su Rui and was changing the flowers in the vase in the room, heard Su Rui's words and her movement slightly paused. She turned her head and glanced at Su Rui's injured arm and leg. You want to take a bath? It's not convenient for you to take a bath with this injury. It won't be good if you touch water. If you really can't take it anymore, you can only wipe your body. Wipe, that's fine. Su Rui seemed to be a bit dissatisfied and his tone was weak. Pretend, I'll let you pretend. Su Wan's expression was indifferent as she smiled. Okay, I got it. Wait for me at night. The company has been too busy recently. I have to go back first. Hearing Su Wan mention the company's matters, Su Rui couldn't help but ask, that matter from last time was handled. That matter naturally referred to the cancellation of the contract that caused a lot of noise. It's been handled. Su Wan responded. That matter was finally resolved by Xiao Jing Mo on his own initiative. Perhaps because he felt that he owed something, the matter of the contract was finally perfectly resolved by Xiao Jing Mo and the head office no longer pursued it. And these few days, Xiao Jing Mo was still investigating the matter of the car. He felt that someone was targeting Su Wan and he wanted to help Su Wan find the person behind the scenes. In fact, Su Wan didn't need to investigate to know who that person was. In the original plot, because Fang Zimu liked Luo Chu Chu, Ouyang Jing bewitched Fang Ziwen to spend money to hire people to cause a car accident. Chapter 57. After Su Wan left, there was only Su Rui left in the ward. He restrained the gentleness and smile on his face and his whole person returned to that kind of natural indifference and gloominess. He looked at the cast and bandages on his body with some disgust and thought that only like this would Su Wan be willing to accompany him. After weighing the pros and cons, Su Rui felt that it was better to maintain the status quo for the time being. He took out his cell phone from under the pillow on the hospital bed and dialed a familiar number. Boss. An indifferent male voice came from the phone. How is Ouyang Jing? Su Rui coldly asked. Even if Ouyang Jing wasn't here, when he mentioned this name, his eyes still flashed with an unconcealable killing intent. I've already taken good care of her according to boss's instructions. She won't die for the time being. The person on the phone respectfully answered Su Rui's question. I got it. What's the latest progress on Ouyang family's side? Su Rui seemed to feel uncomfortable sitting on the bed for too long. He held the phone with one hand while fumbling to get off the bed. His leg that was covered in bandages seemed to be fine and he could actually walk around on the ground at will. The person on the phone was still respectfully reporting about Ouyang family's matters. Ouyang Qi has already agreed to cooperate with us. Tomorrow, he will enter the board of directors. Right now, Ouyang family is in a mess with internal and external troubles. For the time being, no one will care about Ouyang Jing's matters. Well done. Ouyang family's matters must be settled as soon as possible. At the same time, Haoyue's shares must also be absorbed by me as much as possible. Separated by the ward's door that wasn't too thick, Xiao Jing Mo stood perfectly straight in the corridor. Through the weak gap on the side of the door, not only could he clearly hear every word Su Rui said, he even saw with his own eyes the injured person swaggering around on the ground at will. Xiao Jingmo's gaze darkened. In the end, he still quietly left the ward. In the ward, after Xiao Jingmo left, Su Rui also hung up the phone. He rubbed his stiff neck that had been lying down for the past few days. His gaze swept past the door of the ward. Su Rui lowered his eyes and a mocking smile flashed across his lips. Xiao Jingmo was never an opponent in Su Rui's eyes. That was just a dispensable task target, nothing more. Just like Su Wan's task was to turn Xiao Jingmo, her ex-boyfriend, from the protagonist to cannon fodder, Su Rui's task was to ensure that the male and female protagonists of this world could be together smoothly. As for what happened in between, Su Rui never cared. When Su Wan did the task, she was already very humane. She was very attentively doing what she wanted to do, but Su Rui was more simple and crude than anyone else. Before entering this world and meeting Su Wan again, Su Rui had already completed a lot of tasks at an incredible speed. In the Plane Restorer headquarters, each task enforcer also had a completely different task route. Just like Chi Yu had always been engaged in the great profession of villain boss, and his archenemy Yunxing had always served as the life mentor beside the male protagonist, a brilliant but extremely easy to be cannon fodder role. As a newcomer, Su Rui only received the bitter task route of a affectionate supporting male. This was the most arduous and unrewarding task route. He often had to live for the female protagonist, die for the female protagonist, and live a life worse than death for the female protagonist. It was said that the previous task enforcer who was engaged in this route was admitted to a sanatorium because of severe depression, which was why it was Su Rui's turn to take over. At that time, the people in the headquarters still didn't know that they would have the craziest, affectionate supporting male task enforcer in history. Wasn't it just to let the male and female protagonists be together for a lifetime and never leave each other? At that time, Su Rui, who was still carrying a baleful aura, entered the first time space that happened to be a figurehead dynasty. And according to the golden rule of supporting male, Su Rui's identity at that time was a powerful vassal king. The female protagonist of that task world was a naive and kind little palace maid, and the male protagonist was a depressed and unsuccessful prince. At that time, in order to complete the task as soon as possible and get points, Su Rui immediately organized his own forces to force the abdication of the throne to rebel and kill the monarch. After that, he changed the male protagonist to be the new emperor, holding the emperor in order to command the feudal vassals. As for the female protagonist, Su Rui directly sent her to the male protagonist's dragon bed, directly promoted from a little palace maid to the empress who was the mother of the world. Under Su Rui's tyrannical high-pressure policy, the little emperor lived in fear and trepidation. He and his empress still didn't have any emotional foundation at this time, but the huge imperial harem was dismissed by Su Rui. The little emperor only had the empress, one woman, and the two people were oppressed by Su Rui, forced to be together every day. Later, they gave birth to the crown prince, and the two people finally resigned to their fate and accepted this kind of life. And at this time, Su Rui also contacted the headquarters and received a positive reply that the task was completed. So it turned out that he could also complete the task like this. He could only blame himself for completing the first task too smoothly and oddly, which led to Su Rui walking further and further on the completely distorted task path. For example, in the cultivation world, smelt the flesh and blood of the female and male protagonists together into a magic weapon, and let their souls be trapped in the magic weapon forever. Or in the end of the world, simply turn the male and female protagonists into zombies and imprison them to feed and whatnot. This way, the male and female protagonists would really not leave each other for a lifetime. You have me and you, I have you. And the rules of the headquarters actually tacitly allowed this to be considered as completing the task. Your mother, this is simply cheating, right? Well, in fact, Su Rui didn't know how to normally complete the task, because he himself was originally not a normal person. When entering this world, Su Rui already had a particularly simple and crude method for Xiao Jing Mo and Luo Chu Chu's ending, but all the original plans changed after he met Su Rui again. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.